Chapter 864. The nearby star Pupil Protoss fleet urgently gathered on this planet and waited. The border not far away had also increased its defense, guarding against the dynasty's fleet outside the border. After waiting for 2 days, they finally received a report of Cisco's arrival at the border. Your Excellencies, Leader Cisco has arrived at the border and will be here soon. Jed heaved a sigh of relief and forced himself to speak. His expression was slightly dispirited. For the past 2 days, Han Xiao and Heber had been staying in the room. He suggested that everyone should stay in the room, but Han Xiao and Heber did not even bother with him and did not allow him to leave. Jed could only accompany them in the room for 2 days. He was sitting on pins and needles, not daring to sleep. His high-strung nerves increased his mental exhaustion, and his complexion did not look good. To a beyond grade A mere 2 days did not require any rest. High-level life forms had a different sense of time and could react in microseconds. They could also adjust the activity level of their cells. The elites that the two of them brought along and the star pupil holy race guard around them were all calamity-grade supers, so they were not affected much. Only the government emissaries like Jed were a little tired. If they stayed in the room, the pressure that had gathered at this time would dissipate. Therefore, the two of them sat there for 2 days, increasing the pressure on the star pupil Protoss present. After waiting for a while, there was a commotion outside the door. In their perception, a huge energy source was slowly approaching. Heber suddenly opened his eyes and nodded slowly. He's here. The next moment, the door opened and Cisco slowly walked in. Everyone's eyes focused on him. The guards present all heaved a sigh of relief, straightening their backs a little as if they had found their backbone. Yo, isn't this little Cece? The hero has arrived. Han Xiao changed his posture and joked. Cisco glanced at him and walked to the seat opposite the two of them. Jed, who was originally sitting there, hurriedly got up and made way for Cisco to sit down. Didn't you want to see me? I'm back. What do you want? Just say it. Cisco's tone was solemn. However, the next second, Han Xiao suddenly raised his hand, and a mechanical structure covered his arm. Mechanical force flashed, and the machinery continued to expand, turning into a huge palm that pushed forward. The table and sofa in front of him were all pushed away, and the mechanical palm hit Cisco directly, smashing him into the wall. Bang, the whole room shook. What are you doing? The situation was so sudden that the guards' expressions changed drastically. They immediately wanted to help their leader. However, at this time, Hela and the rest of the Black Star Guards released their auras toward the surrounding guards. The oppressive aura was filled with warning intent, and the Bloodshed Land Vanguard officials were also glaring at them. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. At this moment, Cisco's serious voice came from below the mechanical palm. Don't do anything. The mechanical palm was compressed bit by bit and left the wall. At this time, Cisco was completely embedded in the alloy wall, looking a little pathetic. He used his psychic power to pull himself out of the twisted metal wall and stared at Han Xiao, not intending to fight back. You almost killed me. Do you have a problem with me hitting you? Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. No. Cisco took a deep breath. He knew that this was a show of strength to destroy his prestige, so he had to endure it. He told his angry subordinates not to be rash, got someone to move a new table and chair, and sat down in front of the two of them again. The surrounding star pupil Protoss clenched their fists tightly, their faces sullen. They could understand Cisco's attitude of enduring the humiliation, but they could not help but feel disappointed. On one hand, they were angry at themselves for being unable to do anything, and on the other hand, they were humiliated by the dignity of their race. Although many of the star pupil Protoss present knew that the dynasty was here to hold them accountable, they still imagined that Cisco would be able to handle such a situation while waiting. However, the current situation shattered their fantasy, and they had no choice but to accept reality. Their leader, Cisco, was here to be humiliated this time. After sitting down again, the Red Empire emissary who had been silent all this while finally spoke. You participated in the attack on the planet Lighthouse Outpost. Of the 6 beyond grade, as who escaped, for have already been captured. The The dynasty wants you and the star pupil Protoss to give an explanation. What explanation do you want? Cisco asked with a deep voice. The dynasty emissary tapped on the smooth white bracelet and summoned a virtual screen. On it were the terms of the agreement. You have to make a formal public apology and sign this compensation agreement to show your sincerity. The details are all inside. If you don't agree, please come with us to the dynasty to be judged or wait for the arcane church to ransom you. Compensation and apology. Cisco mumbled. He had not been idle these past 2 days and had been thinking about the dynasty's intentions. This was not out of his expectations. The dynasty emissary did not keep it a secret and directly read out all the terms of the agreement. Many of the terms were extremely overboard, and the surrounding star pupil Protoss became angrier and angrier. There were only 2 choices before Cisco. One was to accept the compensation, and the other was to become a captive. Of course, there was also a third option, which was to resist. However, if he chose the third option, the dynasty would not give him any face at all. The dynasty did not necessarily need that bit of compensation, but they needed the enemy to submit. After listening, Cisco nodded. I accept this agreement and will publicly apologize for this operation. He did not care about the astronomical amount of compensation. He was helping the arcane church, and although he failed, the arcane church would not let his underlings take the blame. Otherwise, who would help them in the future? Therefore, the compensation would be paid by the arcane church, and there was basically no need for the star pupil Protoss to spend money. As for the public apology, it meant that the arcane church wanted to see it. This was because the arcane church would never apologize to the dynasty, but if they wanted to ransom someone, they had to express their attitude indirectly. The star pupil Protoss's submission was a tactful representation of the arcane church's attitude. It could ease the recent conflict to a certain extent, and it would not embarrass Ethereal. It was a disguised compromise. Even if the arcane church supported the star pupil Protoss, the Red Empire was also a universal civilization. In a situation where the 2 sides had conflicts on the surface and private negotiations, the star pupil Protoss had to give an explanation. Only Cisco was clear about this, but the others might not be. In the eyes of the people around, their leader had agreed to such a humiliating condition without saying anything. This made the faces of the star pupil Protoss turn uglier and uglier. The way they looked at Cisco changed from firm to complicated. It looked like Cisco had sold out the interests of his race without hesitation to protect himself. Of course, they knew that this was a huge mistake, but they could not help but have such thoughts. Although they knew that Cisco's choice was not wrong, Jed and the many guards around still felt angry and humiliated. This time, Heber spoke. Cisco, take your people and leave the Shattered Star Ring. You know that the dynasty and us will not sit by and watch you develop. For you, the best choice is to leave this place. One less beyond grade A in the Shattered Star Ring was beneficial to the remaining people. Heber had the same thought as the dynasty, but he shook his head. No matter what difficulties we encounter, as long as we can overcome them, we will not leave our home easily. Humph. Seeing this, Heber did not say anything else. This time, Han Shao knocked on the table and said calmly, What comes next is our business. You pay the compensation to the dynasty, but you also have to express your gratitude to me, the victim. Cisco turned around and looked at him. What do you want? Han Shao smiled. I want the evolution cube. Everyone was stunned. Cisco was confused. Didn't you already take it? No, you misunderstood me. Han Shao crossed his arms and said calmly, I want you to remove the psychic connection to the evolution cube and announce to the universe that you have already given the evolution cube to me. Cisco's expression changed. He finally understood what was going on. Black Star, this evil thing, was trying to kill someone's heart. Originally, the star pupil holy race had thought that Black Star had snatched away their race treasure. If they publicly announced that they were giving up the evolution cube and gave it a Black Star, they would not have a right to criticize him. At that time, all of the star pupil holy race members would be silenced, and the anger of the people would be vented on them. Their leader's reputation would plummet. UB** starred. Cisco clenched his teeth. Han Xiao said with a deep voice, "Because of the evolution cube, you have targeted me time and time again. This attack was also caused by the evolution cube. If I don't let you give up on this thing, similar things will happen again in the future. Also, I haven't settled the score with you about the Avitan Soul almost bombing Blue Star. Let's watch this video first." As he said that, Han Xiao summoned a virtual screen. The video played was the video of the guard named Lalum attacking him 2 days ago. Philip had recorded it long ago. The video ended very quickly, and Cisco's expression was ugly. Han Xiao put away the virtual screen, raised his brows, and said, "I did not hold it against a beyond grade A, but I do not wish to hear such nonsense again. Therefore, in order to prevent your people from continuing to think this way, I have decided to use this method to solve this problem once and for all. What do you think? What if I don't agree?" Cisco held back his anger. "It's fine if you don't agree." Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and slowly said, "But are you still my opponent now? Have you ever thought about what will happen to the star pupil Protoss without you as their leader?" At this moment, Cisco realized that the black star in front of him was no longer the guy who had fought him to a draw. He immediately thought of Dylan, who had been captured alive by Han Xiao in the blink of an eye. However, he was still unwilling to give up the evolution cube. The soul connection between him and the evolution cube had given him a certain bonus to his psychic strength. Without this universal treasure, his combat power would decrease, and his position in the Arcane Church would also decrease. This time, the dynasty's envoy spoke. "Black Star's intentions are the dynasty's intentions. If you don't agree, you can write it into the compensation agreement." Han Xiaoxin's heart skipped a beat. He had not discussed this matter with the dynasty, but it was only natural that the dynasty's envoy would support it. There might even be the influence of political assets. Hearing this, Psyker clenched his fists and loosened them weakly. His tone was low. "I agree." Bang! A Calamity Grade Star, pupil Holy Race Calamity Grade Guard at the side, could not hold it in any longer and slammed his fist into the wall, creating a crater. However, the other star pupil Protoss were also trembling in anger, and no one looked at him. Han Xiao and the others simply ignored him. Han Xiao nodded, took out the evolution cube, and let it float in front of everyone. The small silver cube rotated and attracted everyone's attention. Heber's Adam's apple moved imperceptibly, but he did not let his subordinates notice it. "Then, show your sincerity first and remove your psychic connection." Cisco closed his eyes and calmed himself down. He then slowly released his psychic energy to touch the evolution cube and cut off the connection. The next moment, his body trembled, and his brain clearly sensed that the bridge between the evolution cube and him had been cut off. His ability to locate the evolution cube had disappeared. "It's done." Cisco's tone was very low, trying his best to hide his disappointment. Han Xiao took back the evolution cube. A beyond grade, a super was very sensitive to energy, and the aura attached to the evolution cube had indeed disappeared. Finally, the hidden danger has been removed. Han Xiaoxin felt relieved. Although the space-time amber had the same effect, he would have to use the evolution cube at some point, and this would be more effective. However, he was careful and threw the cube to Fu Ding for inspection. Although Fu Ding was only a calamity grade, he was very lucky. "Don't worry, your dynasty also has a beyond grade psychic, so it will be easy to find out. You don't have to worry about me doing anything." Cisco said, "I've already agreed to your conditions. Is there anything else? If not, please leave the territory of the star pupil Protoss immediately." The dynasty emissary stood up. "Okay, we will not disturb you. Remember, the dynasty will always be watching you. We look forward to your announcement." Cisco clenched his teeth and did not say anything. "Don't blame me." Han Xiao also stood up. "If you fail, you have to pay the price. At least you're still alive." As soon as he said that, Han Xiao suddenly felt that his words were very villainous. However, in the eyes of the star pupil Protoss, he was an out-and-out villain. "I won't always fail," Cisco said with a deep voice. "You won't always be alive either." Heber interrupted and walked out of the room first. The dynasty emissary followed closely behind. With one foot out the door, Han Shao looked back at Cisco, who was sitting still, and smiled. Instead of being angry with us here, you should deal with the public opinion first. Cisco did not respond and asked, "How's Dylan? You still have the time to care about others? Looks like your relationship with him is really good." Han Zhao's lips curled up. "Don't worry, he's safe now, very safe." With that, Han Shao waved his hand and even had the time to say goodbye before leaving. After watching the group disappear from sight, Cisco received a report that Han Shao and the others had boarded the spaceship and taken off. After sitting in a daze for a while, Cisco looked up and saw that all his people in the room were staring at him. He sighed and stood up. "Tell them to prepare for a government press conference. I will personally attend." Jed hesitated and reminded him. Black Star used virtual technology to invade many media websites and incited public opinion everywhere, spreading unfavorable comments about you. Do you want to deal with it first? No, Black Star will stop once he leaves. Although he's a ruthless person, he won't keep playing tricks like this. Cisco sighed. And when I release the announcement, you'll know that public opinion is nothing. When he thought about the backlash this announcement would cause, Cisco's heart was filled with sorrow. However, the situation was beyond his control, and he had no choice. Even if he asked for help from his family, the Arcane Church, considering the importance of ransoming Psyker, would not start a new conflict with the Imperium over such a small matter as damaging Psyker's reputation. Chapter 865. Under the escort of the Star Pupil God Race fleet, they left the border and met up with the dynasty's main force. The main force turned around and left under the hostile gaze of the Star Pupil God Race, turning into streams of light and disappearing into the galaxy. The border outpost was far away, and the dynasty emissary turned around to look at the two people beside him, smiling. "Thank you." Cisco was very cooperative, and the operation went smoothly. Heber waved his hands expressionlessly, indicating that this was a small matter, by demonstrating to the other beyond grade as he could also increase his prestige. Furthermore, the Star Pupil God Race had agreed to pay compensation, so it would definitely be recorded in history. As a peer, he would also leave a new mark in history, which was quite a good reward for him. This time, Cisco has failed. He should be quiet for a long time. Han Shao smiled. The hidden danger of the evolution cube had finally been removed, and he was in a rather good mood. Yes, Cisco has to deal with the aftermath, deal with the star cluster civilizations competing with them, and develop in a low-key manner. He probably won't do anything for the next 20 to 30 years, the dynasty emissary added. He then looked at his wristband and said, "I'm going back to report to Envoys OL. Your Excellencies, let's part ways here." Han Shao and Heber nodded. After recording the number of this emissary, the two of them returned to the spaceships of their respective organizations and watched the dynasty's main force leave. "I'm leaving too." Heber sent a message to Han Shao and left with the Bloodshed Lands troops. He was going to continue being a supervisor in the Flickering World. The grudge between the two of them had never been resolved, and it would probably be difficult for them to reconcile in the future. Their private relationship was still not good, but after going through this incident together, their relationship as allies had deepened. Han Shao put away his communicator and ordered Philip speed up the fleet. "Let's return to the Black Star Corps headquarters first." "Okay, The exhaust flames of the Black Star Corps battleship shone brightly as energy flowed into the engine, increasing its warp speed. It was time to settle the evolutionary share of the civilizations in the Shattered Star Ring this year, and the dynasty would also be sending a new batch of elites to be modified. Han Shao planned to return to the headquarters to settle these matters before heading to the Flickering World to continue exploring. The impact of this incident was very wide. He had made a shocking achievement as a beyond grade A in the universe, which increased his deterrence. If nothing went wrong, there would not be any trouble coming to him for a very long time, which should last until the end of version 3. Zero. The only hidden danger in his mind was the problem of ES God. The coordinates of the World Tree Civilizations area were like a ticking time bomb. The advanced civilizations that had the coordinates at least knew how to test and protect themselves, but ES God's side could not predict the consequences. No one knew what this guy would do. It was a pity that ES God had taken advantage of the situation this time and was modified by the evolution energy. Han Xiao knew that if he did not find some helpers, he would not be able to do anything to ES God. However, to the Red Empire, the Arcane Church was the competitor that they needed to pay attention to. Han Xiao thought that after the Dynasty and Ethereal came to an agreement, they would send people to deal with ES God. ES God was not to be trifled with. If they sent too few people, they might not be able to defeat him. If they sent too many people, ES God would not stay behind to fight. The Dynasty had dealt with ES God countless times, but had never been able to kill him. This time, they probably only wanted to get rid of ES God's henchmen. Han Xiao thought that he could only act according to the situation. Furthermore, the Dynasty's intelligence showed that ES God had left this star field through the wormholes in the Shattered Star Ring. There were no sightings yet, so he had probably teleported to the desolate universe belt. Thus, it was useless to deal with ES God now. He could only wait. As for now, Han Xiao decided to first get through the experience penalty period and increase his level. Only with a stronger foundation would the success rate of his operation be higher. The penalty period is less than half a year away. Soon, Han Xiao was looking forward to it. A few days later, Cisco finally made a public appearance in the race. The moment he appeared, he held a government press conference and personally attended to explain his actions during this period. Due to the recent public opinion, the citizens of the Star Pupil God race have been waiting anxiously for a long time. Almost every household was waiting in front of their screens, paying attention to the news. Under the gazes of billions of people, time seemed to pass very slowly. Finally, it was time for the live broadcast of the press conference. Everyone's screens flashed, and it was finally a live broadcast. Everyone's attention was highly focused, and their heartstrings tightened. Cisco's figure appeared on the screen. With a heavy and serious expression, he slowly opened his mouth. Dear citizens of the Star Pupil God race, colleagues in the government, hello, I'm Cisco. Regarding the recent storm, I'm here to give an official explanation and statement. In the past few months, information about me has been circulating in the universe, and I've received everyone's attention. First of all, I would like to express my deepest apologies to everyone. Due to some of my mistakes in decision-making, I've landed myself in a dangerous situation and implicated the race. I'm deeply ashamed of this. This is a stain on my record. A mistake is a mistake, and I won't defend myself. A few days ago, the Red Empire visited and held me accountable. I didn't run away like the false rumors on the internet said, but immediately rushed back and discussed with the emissary of the Red Empire. After a face-to-face discussion, both sides reached a preliminary agreement. Here, on behalf of myself and the Star Pupil God Race civilization, I apologize to the Red Empire for this incident and will fulfill the compensation agreement. The details are as follows. Cisco read the terms of the compensation agreement and said with a deep voice, I'm also very grateful to the other side. On the other hand, I would also like to express my sincere apologies to the victim, Black Star. For this, I am willing to compensate. There's a fact that cannot be ignored. The evolution cube is the legacy of a certain civilization and not the exclusive property of the Star Pupil God race. Due to some unexpected factors, we lost the evolution cube. The one who should be blamed should be ES God, not Black Star. We've already enjoyed the benefits of the evolution cube. Here, I'll give up the ownership of the evolution cube and give it to Black Star as compensation. My dear citizens, in the past many years, the Star Pupil God race has achieved brilliant results in terms of economy, culture, and so on. Now, we fall into a low point. In our culture, after every disaster, new opportunities and resources will be brought. I hope that everyone can uphold this spirit and sincerely cooperate, maintain passion, and overcome the difficulties together. I hope that everyone can understand our decision. I hope that everyone will not forget today's humiliation. Finally, I wish everyone a happy life. As soon as he said that, the screen turned black. Cisco's speech ended, but it caused a strong aftershock in the star pupil god ray society. Countless people were shocked, furious, and in an uproar. A civilization had publicly admitted defeat and lost all face. Now, they even had to pay compensation. Everyone felt humiliated. To the entire star pupil god race, this was an unexpected disaster. It was all because of Cisco's mistake. Furthermore, Cisco had actually publicly given up their race treasure and given it to Black Star, the villain who had taken it away from them. In everyone's eyes, this was simply an excuse for not being able to take back the evolution cube. It was like, you took away my thing, and I don't have the ability to take it back, so I don't want it anymore. How shameful. This speech caused a huge uproar. For a time, all the star pupil god race society were condemning Cisco. The prestige that he had accumulated over the years quickly declined. There were even some extreme and blind people who directly called him the shame of the race. The reaction was extremely intense. In the inner hall of the Cabinet of Secrets, a group of confidants stood in front of Cisco with difficult expressions. Your Excellency Cisco, the public opinion on the internet is not favorable to you. Do you really not need to control it? Psyker shook his head. There's no need for that. This is a humiliation, and the people need a channel to vent their anger. Let them vent and channel the anger in their hearts. When they're done venting, they'll remember my past achievements. When that time comes, all I need to do is to guide the public opinion in secret. This will be very detrimental to your prestige. Someone said worriedly, when something reaches an extreme, it will definitely cause a backlash. Cisco sighed. Whether it's admiration or hatred, when it reaches an extreme, it will start to slide to the other side. When the public opinion reaches the peak, more and more people will speak up for me. This is more deeply rooted in the hearts of the people than simple control. Is this really okay? There's nothing wrong with it. Cisco took a deep breath. Past achievements can't be used as an excuse. Radiance of a person will cast a larger shadow, and the stain will also be magnified. I don't want everyone to sing praises for me. Only by having hate groups as the opposition of the people will I be able to maintain my reputation for a long time. Humiliation can also bring motivation to the people. I'm just afraid that you'll be disappointed in us. A confidant said softly. Cisco was the leader of the star pupil Protoss, but after becoming a beyond grade, Cisco himself was no longer a star pupil Protoss. This was a potential trust gap, and it was also a shadow in the hearts of some people. Don't worry, I won't forget my mother's race. Cisco shook his head. As a beyond grade, his beliefs would not be shaken so easily. The world is very complicated, I know. Therefore, I will never mistake a one-sided corner for the whole world. The words of a part of the people cannot represent the entire group. In the end, these people who are venting their anger will realize that no matter how they criticize me, I'm still their leader. They have no choice. As for the current public opinion storm, Psyker smiled. Although he was open-minded, there was still a hint of fatigue in his smile. The flames will eventually extinguish, and the storm will eventually stop. Do what we have to do, and wait for it to calm down naturally. The star pupil Protoss has given in. On the mother planet of the Arcane Church, after Cisco's speech was played on the virtual screen in the conference room, the bishops fell into a short silence. After a long time, a bishop spoke with a low voice. This way, the dynasty's attitude will be better. Since Psyker had cut off his connection with the evolution cube and lost the ability to locate it, the Arcane Church had basically given up on the evolution cube and cut off their last strand of hope. How's the ransom going? The dynasty has only agreed to ransom Mercer and Dylan, and the price is very high. Let's redeem 2 first. This will satisfy our allies and keep their hearts. As for Sagman and Taylor, the dynasty won't let us redeem all of them so quickly. Those allies will understand. Where's Ninja? He has already escaped the Shattered Star Ring through the spy's secret star cluster and will be back soon. Luckily, the 10,000 deity scepter is with him. Speaking of this, the bishops secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Of the 6 beyond grade, as they had sent out, for were captured, one had nowhere to run, and only one managed to escape back to the central galaxy. Coincidentally, it was this person who managed to escape with the 10,000 deity scepter. In the eyes of these upper echelons, the 10,000 deity scepter was more important than the beyond grade as themselves. In the long years, there would always be new beyond grade and there might only be one universal treasure. The most important 10,000 deity scepter was not lost. It was truly fortunate. At the same time, outside the Shattered Star Ring, somewhere in the desolate universe belt, due to the Red Empire's thorough search of the Shattered Star Ring, the Arcane Church's spies could only build their Stargate station in the desolate universe belt. A spaceship was rushing toward the Stargate station marked on the star map. The person on the spaceship was Ninja, the only one who managed to escape. Very soon, the Stargate station appeared in his vision, and Ninja finally heaved a sigh of relief. After passing through this military Stargate, he would be able to cross a few star fields and return to the central galaxy. After escaping for so long, he could no longer endure such a life. At this moment, the spaceship shook violently. The engine died, and it came to an abrupt stop. What's going on? Ninja was shocked and hurriedly operated the spaceship. However, all his orders were useless, and the spaceship did not respond at all. At this time, the spaceship suddenly shook. Rumble. A massive external force pressed down from all directions, instantly turning the spaceship into a pile of scrap metal, like a crumpled ball of paper. Bang! A spherical white shield pierced through the armor and shot out from the wreckage of the spaceship. Ninja was covered in a magic shield, and he held onto the 10,000 deity scepter that was wrapped in the space-time amber. He looked around cautiously, and his instincts were warning him. To think that he would be attacked here. Could it be that the dynasty discovered the Stargate station and set up an ambush? At this time, a voice sounded in his mind. It's not easy to find you, Divine Spell Ninja. Hand over the 10,000 deity scepter, and I can let you go. Along with the voice, the surrounding space lit up with countless hyperdrive flashes. Figures appeared one after another, and their numbers increased rapidly, filling up the entire area. Countless pairs of emotionless electronic eyes stared at Ninja with a scarlet glow. Right in front of him was a tall figure covered in lightning. His face was lifelike, and the patterns on his body showed that this was a mechanical shell. The moment he saw this person, Ninja's expression changed drastically. Mecha Empire? Chapter 866. Fresh blood flowed and formed a few red snakes on the metal floor, forming a puddle of blood. Ninja was lying on the ground with wounds all over his body. Beneath him was a huge mechanical suction cup that was glowing with a faint blue light. The suction force from his suction force was holding him down. His limbs and torso were shackled by heavy black alloy rings. These were some kind of special mechanical shackles that had an extremely strong energy interference field. They even used subspace conversion technology to transfer the energy released by the target, which had a certain anti-magic effect on mages. At the same time, for pipes extended from the metal floor on both sides of Ninja and pierced into his spine. Nanites were injected into them, disrupting his energy flow and messing up his nerves, affecting his control of his body. Ninja could only barely raise his head. His blurry vision was parallel to the ground, and all he could see were mechanical limbs. Mechanical soldiers were surrounding him. Both parties were currently on the surface of a metal fortress. This was a mechanical war fortress brought by the Mecha Empire, and there were traces of battle and broken mechanical parts all over the place. The surrounding space was forcefully stabilized by the Mecha Empire's stabilizing device, and he had even set up a magic interference device to disable Ninja's teleportation. Ninja had nowhere to run and could only fight. However, other than the Mecha Empire's Lord's Descent avatar, there were also 4 apostle weapons in this long-range mechanical army. Ninja was not a match for this long-range mechanical army, and he was heavily injured in a one-on-one cough, a group fight. The 10,000 deity scepter had already fallen into the hands of the Mecha Empire. I was waiting for you to use the 10,000 deity scepter, but you never did. So this is the reason. The Mecha Empire's avatar held the amber that sealed the 10,000 deity scepter and carefully touched it. Feeling the special energy insulation properties of the space-time amber, he clicked his tongue in wonder. You dare to snatch the 10,000 deity scepter? Manison, aren't you afraid of the Arcane Church's wrath? Ninja gritted his teeth. Don't misunderstand. I'm not interested in the 10,000 deity scepter. I'm just doing the Radiant Federation a small favor. The Mecha Empire glanced at Ninja and waved to the side. A bright silver mechanical life, apostle weapon, walked over. Its body was as smooth as a mirror, without any mechanical structure. The apostle weapon squatted down and stabbed its fingers into Ninja's back. Then its entire body turned into liquid and flowed into Ninja's body through the wound. The next moment, the Mecha Empire released the restraints on Ninja's body. However, the apostle weapon in Ninja's body also suppressed his ability to control his body. He could only glare at the Mecha Empire. What do you want to do to me? The Radiant Federation asked me to kill you and destroy the evidence, but your body is still useful to me. The Mecha Empire tossed out a compressed orb and turned it into a restraining pod, trapping Nika inside. After confirming that Ninja could not escape, the Mecha Empire turned around and continued to observe the amber that sealed the 10,000 deity scepter. Oh, this is a very special new material. Since Black Star knows how to create it, I'll have to find an opportunity to come into contact with it in the future. Lost contact? Explain to me. What do you mean by lost contact? The upper echelons of the Arcane Church received the news very quickly. Ninja, who was supposed to return to the central galaxy through the Stargate, had actually lost contact not long ago. This shocked the bishops. They thought that Ninja was already out of danger and would be able to successfully bring the 10,000 deity scepter back. They did not expect an accident to happen just as the dust was about to settle. Now, although they could not contact Ninja, the worst outcome would be that he was attacked and killed. However, even if he was attacked, Ninja should have been able to send back news. The Stargate monitoring station of the Arcane Church did not report any abnormalities either. There is only one explanation for this situation. There was a virtual mechanic among the attackers who had tampered with the data and blocked the communication. The bishops immediately thought of the most suspicious person, Black Star. However, Han Xiao had just visited the Star Pupil Protoss not long ago and was currently on his way back to the headquarters. He had an alibi, but they could not rule out the possibility that Han Xiao had used a long-range force to complete the attack. If Black Star is the culprit, could it be that the Red Empire is behind this? The dynasty has already captured 4 of us and forced Cisco to publicly apologize. Are they still not satisfied? Someone asked. The possibility is not high. Both sides are currently negotiating for the ransom and have already reached a preliminary agreement. The dynasty is very clear that continuing to chase after us will not necessarily bring them any benefits. If they snatch the 10,000 deity scepter, they will force us to flip the table, which is probably not worth it for them. Then, could it be that Black Star is plotting for the 10,000 deity scepter and acted on his own accord? Thinking about it, this will do more harm than good to Black Star. He obtained a huge reward this time, so there's no need for him to take the risk to snatch the 10,000 deity scepter. Even if he snatches it, he won't dare use it, and it will only bring him trouble. The only way is to hand it over to the dynasty. However, the personality Black Star has shown so far shows that he is not someone who likes to take risks. Furthermore, his cooperation with the dynasty is still in the honeymoon stage, so he will not do such a risky thing behind the dynasty's back. The bishops frowned. All the signs indicated that this was not an operation between the dynasty and Black Star. Could it be that the organizations in the dark were trying to take advantage of the situation? To be able to intercept Ninja, 2 prerequisites had to be met. First, they had to have a strong intelligence network in the Shattered Star Ring to be able to lock onto Ninja's whereabouts. Second, they had to have a beyond grade A combatant and a beyond grade of virtual mechanic to be able to defeat Ninja silently. After thinking about it, another target that met these two prerequisites appeared in their minds. The bishops were shocked. Could it be the Radiant Federation? The Shattered Star Ring was the territory of the Radiant Federation. Although the Radiant Federation did not seem to care much about this star field, their intelligence network was definitely not to be underestimated. They had been operating in this star field for many years, and although they did not reveal themselves, their intelligence network was very likely to exceed that of the Red Empire, which had only been in the game for a few years. The Red Empire did not discover Ninja's whereabouts, but the Radiant Federation did. This made sense. The bishops' faces were pale. The more they thought about it, the more suspicious they felt the Radiant Federation was. Back then, when they lent the multi-dimensional sky opening transportation device, those bastards had the intention of taking advantage of the situation. This time, the Arcane Church had lost many beyond grade A combatants, and their relationship with the Red Empire was strained. To the Radiant Federation, this was the best opportunity to take action. Only then did the bishops realize that the troops they had sent this time had been completely wiped out. A mouthful of blood was stuck in their throats, and they almost spat it out. Radiant Federation, UF***. This time, a virtual screen appeared on the conference table, showing the Pope's order. Stabilize the Red Empire first. Redeem our beyond grade A allies. Then negotiate with the Radiant Federation. The bishops looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with helplessness and depression. Yesterday, they thought that the 10,000 deity scepter was going to be returned, but today they received bad news. This feeling of falling from heaven to hell made them feel terrible. All their efforts were for naught. Without evidence, the Radiant Federation would not admit it. The other party was also an organization of the same level, so they would not be threatened and would not be afraid of fighting head-on. This was the only thing they could do now. After stabilizing the Empire, they would fight with the Radiant Federation. On the mother planet of the Radiant Federation, President Bader put down the communicator, nodded, and smiled at the elders present. Manison has succeeded. The 10,000 deity scepter is now ours. Hearing this, everyone in the room revealed a triumphant smile. The chief elder tapped his walking stick and praised, as expected of one of the strongest ancient ones. The Mecha Empire is still as reliable as ever. Bader nodded with a smile. The Mecha Empire had always been an important ally of his. Not only was the strength of the Mecha Empire terrifying, but it was also because the long-range troops of the Mecha Empire could appear and disappear unpredictably, allowing them to complete many secret operations. The Arcane Church might suspect the Empire, or they might guess that we did it, but they have no evidence. Plus, they will not announce the news of the 10,000 deity scepter being stolen to the outside world. According to the intelligence, the way to use the 10,000 deity scepter is very simple. It's just that we don't have the corresponding technology to repair it. However, it can also be used as a trump card with limited uses. It's fatal to beyond grade as cough cough. As long as we don't use it in front of Blackstar, it'll be fine. Although we might have angered the Arcane Church, we've profited greatly by obtaining the 10,000 deity scepter this time. Not only did we take away the trump card of the Arcane Church against beyond grade, as this is also a bargaining chip against the interests of the Arcane Church. Many of the elders had smiles on their faces as they discussed with each other. The Mecha Empire said that the 10,000 deity scepter was sealed by a special material. When he returns, I'll get the Research Institute to crack it. Bader's tone had a calm smile. He did not take the so-called seal to heart. Chapter 867. Han Shao knew nothing about the little secret between the Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church. After leaving the star system of the star pupil Protoss, Han Zhao's fleet did not stop and return to the Black Star Corps headquarters. During the previous Tyrant's party, Han Shao had signed a cooperation agreement with a large number of local civilizations in the Shattered Star Ring. He had publicly sold the slots to use the Evolution Cube in exchange for cooperation and channels. This was the first year of cooperation. Because Han Shao would be staying in the Shattered Star Ring for this period of time, He was prepared to settle the purchase of the slots by the various civilizations. In the past year, the various civilizations had already gone through a series of internal selections and confirmed the list of elites who would accept the evolution. They had been waiting for this day. After receiving the notice, these teams that had been on standby for a long time all moved out. The elites of many civilizations gathered at the Black Star Corps headquarters. Using the evolution cube as a bridge, establishing relationships with many star cluster and star system civilizations in a shattered star ring was a crucial step in the expansion of the Black Star Corps. In Han Zhao's blueprint, maintaining this cooperation network for a long time would allow the Black Star Corps to be the intermediary for the interests of the entire star field. At that time, the power and influence of the Black Star Corps would truly cover the entire star field. Thus, for the first year of cooperation, Han Zhao was still very concerned. Furthermore, there was an additional benefit. The people selected by these civilizations were all elites, and there would definitely be some famous characters or protagonists among them. Letting these people take the initiative to gather here would be much more efficient than searching for them himself. This can be considered as another way of saying that all the heroes in the world are in my hands. Han Zhao thought to himself. Spaceships of various styles landed at the Black Star Corps headquarters. The hatch opened, and the elites of various races walked out. Under the guidance of the reception robots, they headed to the accommodation area. The dock was noisy. These elites were all outstanding people in different positions in their respective civilizations. The most important ones were the calamity grades of their civilizations, the elite officers, the supers with potential, and the researchers. When they disembarked, they sized each other up with curiosity and caution in their eyes. This is the legendary Black Star Corps. Pamela's 3 large, watery eyes were wide open as she curiously observed her surroundings. She came from a cosmic system state plant-based civilization. Her race was called the Flower Spirit race. Her body had the characteristics of a half-plant. Her skin was covered with a layer of green leaf-like epidermis, and she emitted a strange fragrance. In the culture of the flower spirits, everyone had a different fragrance, just like how a human's fingerprints differed. Body fragrance, appearance, and figure were all part of the aesthetic standards of the flower spirits. According to the aesthetic standards of the flower spirit race, Pamela was a rare beauty. At the same time, she was also a research elite who had undergone the evolution this time. Just as Pamela and the others were observing the docks, a small floating robot flew in front of them and spoke in Philip's voice. "Welcome to the Black Star Corps, hum. The Corps commander is still on the way, so I will arrange your accommodations. I will be by your side during this period of time. If you have any needs, just look for me, hum." Understood. The leader of the flower sprites was a calamity grade, and he nodded calmly. "Come with me." The reception robot flew a circle around the crowd and then led the way. The group followed behind, looking left and right while whispering to each other. People from many civilizations are here. I even saw a star cluster civilization just now. They're all familiar people from other civilizations. I don't know them. I've only seen them on TV occasionally. They're all very powerful people. Those who came are all elites of various races. What a grand occasion. Should we go and visit the others later? This is a rare opportunity to make friends. The reception robot heard the discussion behind and turned around. During this period of time, we will take you on a tour of the headquarters and host a banquet. We will provide a platform for you to interact with each other, so you don't have to worry about not having a chance. It's a bit like the Tyrant's Party, but the people participating have changed from 1 or 2 representatives to a large number of elites. The calamity grade, leading the group, seemed to have understood something. Pamela hesitated for a moment before asking, Then, will we have a chance to interact with His Excellency Black Star? There will be. After the evolution, the Army Commander will host a new banquet to celebrate. At that time, if you're willing to stay and participate, you will be able to interact with the Army Commander, the reception robot said with a smile. Then, that's great. Pamela's face turned green. This was a sign of blushing in the flower spirit race. Her companion beside her teased, Yo, you're shy because you're about to meet your idol? Pamela did not say anything. Her face was so green that it almost turned blue. Every beyond grade, A had admirers in the universe. Even a notorious thug like ES God was worshipped by countless criminals. Black Star's deeds were spread throughout the universe. As a native of a planet, he had built the current Black Star core from scratch and single-handedly changed the fate of his mother planet. He had also done many shocking things, and the speed of his rise was shocking. Such a legendary experience had garnered him a large number of admirers in the Shattered Star Ring. Pamela was one of Han Zhao's admirers and was convinced by Han Zhao's deeds. I wonder what kind of spouse His Excellency Black Star likes. Pamela was a little lost in thought. Hey, are you serious? Do you know about reproductive isolation? Her companion was shocked. I'm a biological genetic engineer. Do I need you to remind me? Pamela was helpless. The Calamity Grade leading the team frowned, turned around, and shouted, "Don't forget what we're here for. Don't anger His Excellency Black Star." "Can I even look forward to it?" Pamela said with annoyance. What she did not know was that the reception robot had already recorded her words and uploaded them to Sylvia's file. Sylvia, who was handling official business in her office, received the message and snorted. The 237th one. As she spoke, she made a mark on Pamela's information and threw it into a file called Banquet Seating Arrangements, Corner List. Before the date set by Han Xiao, all the elites of the various civilizations had arrived. Other than Clint, the other star cluster civilizations of the Shattered Star Ring were all present. Not only the local organizations of the Shattered Star Ring, but the Red Empire had also sent a new batch of elites. While waiting, these organizations did not stay idle. Using this rare opportunity to meet, the elites of the various civilizations visited and befriended each other. These elites could all see that Han Xiao was making the best use of everything. In the name of cooperation with the Evolution Cube, he was creating a banquet for the high-level organizations of the Shattered Star Ring to make friends. In other words, he was indirectly stealing the tyrant's business and giving this banquet extra value. He intended to create his own tyrant's party and expand his own influence. Although they understood this, the elites of these civilizations did not have any objections. They were also happy to interact with the elites of the other races. As for the competition between Black Star and the Tyrant, they did not dare to express their opinions. Neither side was easy to provoke, so they might as well blend in and observe the situation. They would just obediently enjoy the show. A few days later, Han Xiao finally returned to the headquarters. After resting for a few hours, he informed everyone to gather for the official evolution ceremony. As groups of people gathered, the bright hall of the headquarters quickly became crowded. When Reynolds received the news, he brought the mechanics of the logistics department to widen the hall on the spot. Only then would it not be overcrowded. The space fluctuated slightly, and Han Xiao walked out of the void dimension and hovered above everyone's heads. The evolution cube spun slowly beside him. Everyone looked up at Han Xiao, who was in midair. There was a slight commotion in the crowd, and whispers could be heard. "Black Star is here. This is the first time I've seen a Beyond Grade A up close. The energy in his body is so terrifying. Just sensing it makes me sweat. That's the evolution cube." Not long ago, Cisco announced that he would give up the rights to this universal treasure. Such a small thing is the source of the recent storm. Several Beyond Grade, as of the Arcane Church, were affected because of it. How terrifying. Black Star does indeed have the ability to protect this universal treasure. A year ago, I thought that his evolution cube would be taken away very quickly. I guessed wrong. The elites of the various races had respect in their eyes. No matter how arrogant they were normally, they kept their usual expressions. In front of Han Xiao, they did not have the confidence to be arrogant. Before Han Zhao's rise, other than Purple Crystal, all the star cluster civilizations present had thoughts of suppressing Han Xiao. When it came to the Tyrant's gathering, they had no choice but to lower their heads and seek cooperation. However, because Han Xiao was still a new Beyond Grade A with an unstable foundation, their thoughts of suppressing him had not completely disappeared. However, the recent events had proven Black Star's strength. This battle record had solidified Han Zhao's position in the universe and also dispelled the last trace of hostility these star cluster civilizations had. They had completely given up on suppressing Han Xiao. Now that Black Star had completely risen, their little tricks were useless. Looking at the respectful and worshipful expressions of the people below, Han Xiao nodded in his mind. The influence brought about by the recent storm had pushed forward the plan of forming an alliance of interests in the Panstar field. This made the cooperation of these organizations extremely enthusiastic, saving many years of accumulation for this plan. Therefore, although this was the first year of cooperation, a strong foundation had already been laid. On the way back, Han Xiao had already taken a look at the list of all the elites. As expected, there were quite a few famous people from the various civilizations in his previous life. However, now was not the time to interact with them. After completing the evolution, Han Xiao planned to properly get close to these old acquaintances at the specially organized celebration banquet. These people most likely had side quests on them that he might not need, but would be very useful to the players. Simply put, they were a group of walking fertilizers. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Han Xiao looked around and smiled playfully. Before we begin, there's one more thing to do. Heber, stop hiding. I know you're here too. As soon as this was said, everyone present was shocked. They looked around, but did not see Heber. The tyrant is here too. The crowd was in an uproar, but no one walked out. Seeing this, Han Xiao raised his brows and continued. Stop lying to yourself. I already see you. Do you want to come out yourself? Or do you want me to drag you out? That's very embarrassing. Everyone was shocked, and the uproar grew bigger and bigger. However, they still did not see anyone. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and looked around. Suddenly, his tone relaxed, and he laughed. Looks like Heber didn't sneak in. Then we can begin. Hearing this, everyone's expression froze. He was actually joking. Countless people's mouths twitched. Is it really good to tease the tyrant like this? He's even guarding against him sneaking in. He's a beyond grade A after all. How could he do such a tasteless thing, right? Maybe Black Star and the tyrant have a good relationship, so he's teasing him. Everyone could only comfort themselves like this and pretend that they did not hear anything. Han Xiao activated the evolution cube. With a thought, the black evolution energy gushed out and quickly covered the entire place. The elites present held their breaths and turned into black cocoons. Done. Han Xiao clapped his hands and instructed Philip, monitor their evolution. Remember to invite them to stay and participate in the banquet. Got it, Han Xiao did not want to wait. He casually put away the evolution cube, left the hall full of black cocoons, and headed to his own room. He was going to change his attire and wait for the banquet. On the way, Han Xiao browsed the forums. The arcane church incident had come to an end, and the long-term benefits he had obtained from this incident would slowly manifest over time. For example, Urinril's appreciation and the dynasty's attention. The dust had settled, and the remaining matters were between the Red Empire and the arcane church. There was no need for him to be concerned. In the short term, there would not be any trouble coming to him, so Han Xiao had the time to think about the situation of the players. From the perspective of the players, it had been 1.5 years since the start of version 3.0. They had passed the early stage and entered the middle stage. In the past 1.5 years, the players had experienced major events such as the Secret War, the Crimson Tide, the rise of Black Star, the exploration of the Flickering World, and the Battle of Planet Lighthouse. There were also countless side quests. After experiencing such a rich storyline, players who had reached the max level of 120 had already appeared. Gradually, more and more players would reach the max level of version 3.0. In the middle of every version, news of the new Pro League would be released. There was still a long time before the start of this Pro League, so the players still had plenty of time to level up, learn skills, and change equipment. However, on the forums, the Pro League officials had already started their preparations and announced it widely, attracting a new round of attention from the players. In Han Xiao's memory, the Pro League in version 3.0 was especially exciting. The players in this version all had grade B strength, and the mechanic class had also slowly risen since version 3.0. A large number of new pro players had appeared in this version, including Maple Moon. Many new pro players had shown their talents and displayed their talents, completing a change in the Pro League. The ratio of mechanics in the Shattered Star Ring was the highest among all the star fields. Furthermore, the Black Star Army sold a large number of machines and blueprints. Coupled with the version advantage, Han Xiao believed that the mechanics of the Shattered Star Ring would shine brightly in this Pro League. To him, the benefit was that it would attract more new mechanics and more old players to create Smurfs of the mechanic class. Then, as a mechanic instructor, he would be able to earn more money. What a pity! 3 versions have passed in the blink of an eye. The good days are almost over. Han Xiao shook his head and sighed. In his previous life, among the various versions that the players had experienced, version 3.0 was a publicly recognized watershed. It meant that the players had passed the early stages and officially entered the middle stage of the universe. After that, the influence of the players began to truly become prominent, and their influence continued to expand. Cancer of the Universe and the Fourth Calamity were the infamous names that the players had made in the middle stages of version 3.0. This was also the source of Han Xiao's psychological trauma. As for now, the players were in a period of transformation. After this version, the players' strength would exceed the critical point, and they would be able to do more and more things. They would be more and more inclined to the chaotic side of things. This was an unavoidable historical process. Version 3.0 was the last stage that the players could easily control. Therefore, Han Xiao placed his bet on the flickering world. The faction war in the next version might be able to inject new vitality into the Black Star Core and bring about further opportunities. Just as Han Xiao was holding the evolution feast, Heber, who was far away in another star cluster, also received the news. As a competitor, he had been paying attention to every move of the Black Star Core. Heber also discovered Han Xiao's sinister intentions. Black Star is using the opportunity of the evolution cube to build a communication platform for the advanced organizations. He wants to snatch the influence of my tyrant's party so that he can have more say in the Shattered Star Ring. After reading the report, Heber was furious. The tyrant's party was the product of his many years of operation, and Han Xiao had come out to compete with him. He was furious, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. When he learned that Han Xiao had ridiculed him in front of the elites of various civilizations, Heber finally exploded. Damn it, why? Are we that close? How dare you ridicule me in public and tarnish my heroic image? You're full of malice. You're going too far. Sooner or later, I'll beat you until you can't take care of yourself. Chapter 868. Everyone's evolution time was different. The black cocoons in the hall cracked one after another, and everyone recovered from their daze, feeling the changes in their bodies. The improvement brought by the evolution cube was a one-time thing. These people without an interface were not like the players, who were not used to the obvious increase in level. The way they increased their strength was through the accumulation of training over a long period of time. Usually, they would only have a one-time improvement when they broke through. Therefore, most of the people present were very satisfied with the effects of the evolution cube, especially the calamity grade supers. The stronger their bodies were, the better the effects of the evolution cube. Some calamity grades who were limited by their potential and could not advance even an inch all year round benefited greatly. What a novel experience! Pamela felt the changes in her body with amazement. As a biological genetic engineer, she felt it even more deeply. This is a pure evolution on the genetic level. It's not a genetic mutation induced by the environment, but an optimization of the original racial characteristics, amplifying the advantages of the genes. It's like some kind of genetic catalyst. If there were no side effects, it would be too scary. It's almost perfect. I don't know what the source of this power is. It's like a god. The state of the cells seems to have been exposed to some kind of radiation. Could the nature of the evolution energy be a special kind of radiation? Pamela's professional habit came online, and she could not help but want to dive into the laboratory to study it. This time, the reception robot that was guarding at the side came up and said, "Congratulations, everyone. In order to celebrate your evolution, The Black Star Corps will be holding a banquet tomorrow. The army commander and all the officers will be present. Everyone is welcome. All the races that had completed their evolution also received invitations from other reception robots. The captain of the flower sprites suppressed his excitement and nodded. Okay, we'll be there. The invitations have been sent to everyone. The time and location are written on it. I'll remind everyone when the time comes. Also, remember to wear formal attire tomorrow. Got it. Everyone nodded. The purpose of this trip was completed, and everyone was in a good mood. Basically, all the elites of the civilizations had accepted the invitation and stayed to attend the banquet. The banquet was the next day, and everyone returned to their accommodation. After resting for a day, these elites took off their galactic armor and combat suits the next day and changed into formal attire of their respective civilizations before heading to the banquet. On the other side, in the commander's room, Han Xiao had also changed his clothes and was looking at himself in the mirror. The man in the mirror was tall and straight. He wore a necklace of compressed orbs around his neck and a thick black cloak with white edges draped over his shoulders. The back of the cloak was embroidered with the emblem of the Black Star Corps. The inner lining was dark red, and the material was the fur of some rare beast. There were 3 inverted triangle-shaped silver magnetic buttons on the collar of the cloak. The lower hem of the cloak reached his calves and could be closed like a curtain to wrap around his body. He wore a double-breasted black shirt with gorgeous patterns embroidered on it and matching pants. I've always wanted to know who designed this suit. Do you think I'm a crow? Han Xiao couldn't help but complain. I designed it according to your usual preferences, It seems that the big data collection algorithm needs to be updated, Han Xiao muttered to himself. After washing his face, Han Xiao pushed open the door. Outside the door stood a group of senior officers. They had all changed into formal attire and were waiting for him to set off together. Han Xiao looked around and took in everyone's attire. Most of the people were wearing the Black Star Corps uniform. Palouse, Reynolds, and many of the Black Star Guards were wearing the same. Loggy was wearing a white mage robe and had the demeanor of a secret magic master. Tamar was also brought along by Loggy. He was wearing a secret blue mage robe and looked like a decent secret magic master. Hardaway was wearing casual clothes that looked like a suit. His muscles were almost bursting out of his clothes. He looked very much like the Bloodshed Land. Sylvia took off her armor and wore a purple dress. She had a ponytail and wore a pair of earrings. She also had light makeup on her face and looked much more mature. As an officer who often dealt with outsiders, she was very familiar with such situations. Aurora also wore a white dress. She was not as mature as Sylvia, but looked more delicate. Hella was wearing a custom-made red Black Star Guards captain uniform. It was a little tight and showed off her stunning figure. She did not like to wear dresses, and her temperament was as cold and capable as usual. Fu Ding was wearing a gorgeous blue robe, which was similar to what he wore when he was on tour. He had an extremely friendly smile on his face. Han Xiao looked at everyone with interest and said, "You guys look good. I haven't worn it for a long time. It's a little awkward." Fu Ding pulled at his collar and said helplessly, because Han Xiao did not usually participate in such events, they rarely saw each other in formal attire. Hella frowned and said, I'm not interested in such occasions. If you have time to attend banquets, you might as well train. You can't just focus on training. You have to relax occasionally." Han Xiao waved his hands with a smile. "I've been dealing with the Arcane Church recently, and I'm very tense. Now that the problem has been solved, I can finally relax. Don't think about training. I don't like to communicate with strangers." Hella shook her head. These people are the elites of their respective races. They're all powerful people. If you get to know them, you might be able to spar with them in the future. That's not a bad idea. Hella's eyes flickered. Han Xiao and the others chatted as they arrived at the banquet hall. The place was already crowded with people, and it was extremely lively. The banquet hall was a special banquet hall, and it was decorated magnificently. Food was indispensable to the banquet. Countless delicacies of different colors were served on the long tables and floating mechanical trays. The food was very complicated and catered to the tastes of different races. The elites of the various races attended the banquet in splendid attire. The dressing styles of different civilizations were dazzling, fully demonstrating the diversity of the galactic society. Han Xiao walked in the hall with his people and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Ahem, on behalf of the Black Star Corps, I welcome everyone to this banquet. After clearing his throat, Han Xiao spoke with a smile. As the host of the banquet, he naturally had to say a few words to signal the start of the banquet. He was very familiar with this. After the introductory words, the atmosphere of the banquet hall became much more lively. Many people took the initiative to chat with Han Xiao. The reason most of them stayed was to communicate with Han Xiao. Normally, they would not have the means to come into contact with beyond grade as. Very soon, Han Xiao was surrounded by a circle of people. With a smile on his face, he patiently chatted with the guests while sizing them up. In just a short while, he saw many old acquaintances from his previous life. They were all famous people that the players had met in the various regions of the Shattered Star Ring during their adventures in his previous life. Some were very cheerful and talkative, some wore hooded cloaks as if they wanted to hide themselves, and some talked to themselves in a very neurotic manner. Their styles were very different. Although these famous people were no longer qualified in front of him, in the eyes of the players, they were still big shots and full of personality. Han Xiao memorized all the contact details of these people who came up to chat with him. These elites, on the other hand, did not expect a beyond grade A to be so friendly and were flattered. Collecting the contact details of these famous people was equivalent to collecting the nodes of the storyline for Han Xiao. Apart from that, these elites all held quite a bit of power in their respective civilizations, which could be considered a very good source of income. Just as they were chatting happily, Han Xiao heard someone call out to him from behind with a shy tone. "Your Excellency Black Star, I'm Pamela of the Flower Sprite race, a genetic engineer." Han Xiao turned around, smiled, and said, "What's the matter? I am your admirer. I would like to get to know you. Can you accept my communicator number?" Pamela's eyes were filled with excitement. She watched from the side for a while, and seeing that Han Xiao did not reject her, she mustered up the courage to talk to him and exchange contact details. Noticing Pamela's impure gaze, Han Xiao could not help but laugh. "Am I being hit on by someone of the opposite sex? How rare. All right, give me your contact details." Han Xiao did not reject. A genetic engineer was quite worth making friends with. Although these elites would not change jobs, he might encounter some special situations in the future that he could ask for their help. "Thank you." After exchanging contact details, Pamela looked as though she had received an autograph from her idol. Her face was filled with excitement, and she held the communicator close to her chest as if it was some kind of treasure. Not far away, Sylvia glanced over and snorted. "Humph, love-struck fool." The banquet went on for a while, and the guests became more and more immersed in the atmosphere, becoming more natural. Batch after batch of guests exchanged contact details with Han Xiao and left in satisfaction. Han Xiao finally had some free time, and he let out a sigh of relief. He picked up a glass of sparkling alcohol that was gradually turning blue from the floating tray in front of him and drank half of it in one gulp to moisten his throat. The refreshing and spicy alcohol flowed down his throat, and a sweet aftertaste surged up. Han Xiao felt refreshed, and he let out a sigh of relief. He walked to a corner and slowly drank his alcohol, his gaze sweeping across the entire hall. After so many years of operation, the Black Star Corps had finally reached its current state. Han Xiaoxin could not help but feel emotional. "What are you feeling emotional about?" Hella walked over with a glass of fiery red alcohol. "How do you know I'm feeling emotional?" Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. "I've known you for so long. How can I not know you? Just by looking at your eyes, I know what you're thinking about," Hella said lightly. "Speaking of which, I remember now. 20 years ago, when I first lost my memory, the first friend I made was you. We were the first to meet. Yeah, so many years have passed in the blink of an eye." Hella followed Han Zhao's gaze and looked at the banquet. She slowly said, "Back then, I was struggling in despair. I never thought that I would one day step into the universe and have a future like this. Now that I think about my experience with Blue Star, it feels like a lifetime ago. Back then, I endured in the underground base for half a year. Luckily, you would leave the base every once in a while, or else I would never have been able to escape. It's good that you know. Hella's lips curled up slightly. Thinking about the memories they shared, she felt inexplicably happy. Han Xiao laughed, then stopped smiling and shook his head. After that, many things happened. You felt that you owed me a favor, so you chose to fight for me. However, your ability is not limited to that. You have the potential to become a beyond grade A. Sooner or later, you will obtain this power. When that time comes, will you still fight alongside me? Hella hesitated for a while before shaking her head. I don't know. An honest answer. Promises are the most unreliable things. Who can say for sure what the future will be? Han Xiao shrugged and raised his glass. At least you're still standing by my side. To our friendship, let's toast. You sound so old-fashioned. Please, we're already more than 40 years old. Although according to our lifespans, we're still kids. You're the one who's a kid. Hella's expression was a little disgusted, but there was a smile on her face. She raised her glass and clinked it with Han Xiao's. Cheers! Ding! With the wine cup between their lips, they each took a sip of wine. Han Xiao smacked his lips, and just as he was about to say something, a guest came over. It seemed like he wanted to talk, but there was a hesitant look on his face. Seeing someone approach, the two stopped chatting, and Han Xiao took the initiative to ask, "What's the matter?" "Your Excellency Black Star, I'm a member of the Gyulul civilization, Cecilin. I have something to discuss with you privately." Gyulul civilization? Han Xiao searched for information on the quantum network. This was a star system civilization from another star cluster. It seemed like they had been in a state of internal strife for a long time. The internal conflict was extremely serious, to the point of military division. This Cecilin was a calamity-grade elite of the current ruling party of the Gyulul civilization. Not only was he one of the strongest guardians of the civilization, he was also a commander of the army. "What do you want to discuss with me privately?" Han Xiao raised his brows. "Can't we talk here?" Cecilin shook his head. "It's not suitable to talk about it in public." "Then at least tell me why you're here." Cecilin paused for a moment before saying with a deep voice, "This is a request. Please believe me, I'm sincere." Han Xiao stroked his chin and smelled the scent of a mission. Since it's a mission that came knocking on my door, there's no harm in listening, Han Xiao thought. With that thought, Han Xiao passed the glass to Hella and walked toward the side door of the banquet hall. There was a private room in the hallway of the side door used for discussions. "Then come with me." Chapter 869. The two of them left through the side door of the venue and entered the reception room in the corridor. Philip closed the door. The soundproofing here was very good, and the noise of the banquet outside was blocked out. The two of them sat opposite each other. With a snap of his fingers, Han Xiao asked the simulated mechanical waiter in the room to pour 2 glasses of amber wine and a few ice cubes into them, placing them on the short table in front of the two of them. "You can speak now." Han Xiao swirled the wine in his glass, and the fragrant wine flowed out. He was now a big shot in the Shattered Star Ring, and with his current position, it was no longer the missions that came looking for him. Instead, the missions would come looking for him, and there would always be people asking for help. This phenomenon was not limited to him. The players could do it as well. For example, if a player had been in a certain star system for a long time and made a name for himself, he would occasionally meet NPCs who would come looking for him. This was the effect of regional reputation. It's like this. My request concerns the future of the Gyulul civilization. Cecilin sat up straight. I guessed it. If it wasn't something of this level, who would bother beyond grade A? Han Zhao's expression did not change, and he raised his hand, indicating for Cecilin to continue. Before that, please allow me to briefly introduce the current situation of my civilization, Cecilin said solemnly. The Gyulul civilization has always been in a state of military division. The 3 main parties have formed their own military regions and are opposing each other, dividing the territory. These 3 parties are the Ancient Emperor Party, the Pioneer Party, and the Decenter Party. The current ruling party representing the Gyulul civilization is the Ancient Emperor Party, and they conduct diplomatic activities in the name of Gyulul. My teammates and I are all members of the Ancient Emperor Party. As one of the edges of the explored universe, the situation in the Shattered Star Ring was rather complicated due to the lack of control. Some civilizations were very peaceful, while others were constantly in a state of internal strife. An internal military division, like the one in the Gyulul civilization, could be considered a serious internal strife. I understand. What do you want to ask for? Han Shao asked. I wish for the war assistance of the Black Star Corps to end the division of the Gyulul civilization and bring us peace. Oh, I understand. You want to apply for war employment and have my people assist the ruling party in suppressing the other two parties, right? Han Shao raised his brows. However, Cecilin shook his head and gave an unexpected answer. No, I hope that the Black Star Corps can assist the Pioneer Party to overthrow the rule of the Ancient Emperor Party and suppress the Descendant Party. Han Zhao's interest was piqued as he sized Cecilin up. You're a member of the Ancient Emperor Party, but you're actually speaking for another party? Could it be that you've secretly joined the Pioneer Party and are a spy? Cecilin shook his head. No, I was born on a colonial planet controlled by the Ancient Emperor Party. When I came of age, I served in the Ancient Emperor Party's army. Until now, I have not joined any other party. Then why are you doing this? Profit? Did the Pioneer Party promise you benefits? That's not it. I have a high position in the Ancient Emperor Party, and I'm also a war hero. The Pioneer Party won't try to rope in a hardcore member like me. Furthermore, with my position, the Ancient Emperor Party can give me whatever the Pioneer Party can. I'm not doing this for benefits. Then what is it for? Philosophy, Cecilin solemnly said. I agree with the ideals of the Pioneer Party. The Ancient Emperor Party is already rotten, and only the Pioneer Party can bring hope to the future of civilization. I get it. Han Shao narrowed his eyes. You're a traitor. The Ancient Emperor Party gave you power and status, even allowing you to enjoy the Evolution Cube. Yet, you're secretly thinking of overthrowing their rule? From her standpoint, I'm indeed a traitor. However, from the standpoint of the Pioneer Party, I'm someone who has abandoned the dark for the light. Thus, I only want to focus on actual actions and not the evaluation of others, Cecilin said in a low voice. When I was young, I was a hot-blooded youth who always wanted to serve the civilization. However, my thinking back then was still immature. Like many others, I was also passionate about protecting the orthodox Ancient Emperor Party. Due to being born on a colonial planet, my standpoint was largely decided by nature. However, after serving the Ancient Emperor Party for so many years, I started to have doubts about their ideology and way of doing things, and my beliefs started to waver. Han Shao looked at him and did not say anything. He had asked Philip to search for detailed information on the Gyulul civilization, and he would not listen to just one side of the story. At this moment, Cecilin's voice fluctuated, and there was a hint of anger in it. Due to the conflict between the parties, the Ancient Emperor Party secretly committed many bloody acts against our own people in order to maintain their absolute rule. I was also involved in a portion of it, and now that I think about it, I regret it. I've seen the darkness of politics, the bloodiness of ruling, and the imprisonment of one's thoughts. I once fell into self-doubt, and my house was filled with medals given to me by the Ancient Emperor Party. In the past, I loved to look at them and reminisce about my past glory. However, when I look at these medals that I was once proud of, my nose can smell the nauseating stench of blood. Han Shao stroked his chin. So you decided to betray the party that groomed you. To be precise, after experiencing self-doubt, I felt that I had unlocked some sort of shackle. Cecilin took a sip of wine and sighed. I have always been bound by my identity, and at that moment, I understood that the three parties were just positions within the civilization. The so-called opposition was meaningless, and the future of the entire civilization should be paid more attention to. Whoever can bring a brighter future to Gyulul, I should help them. As such, I broke away from the entanglement of being a member of the Ancient Emperor Party and the position that bound me. I chose to follow my own thoughts and follow the judgment of my heart. As such, I chose the Pioneer Party, which is supported by the people. They can bring Gyulul to greater heights. So, you think that you're very noble? Han Zhao's brows twitched. I don't have such thoughts, Cecilin shook his head. As for your choice, I'm just an outsider, and I don't wish to comment on it. Han Xiao slowly said, I only want to know. You said that you did not join any other party. So on what basis are you representing the Pioneer Party to discuss cooperation with me? Right now, I'm not representing the Pioneer Party, but making a request to you in my own capacity. Han Xiao smiled. Then, why do you think that you can convince me to interfere in a civil war that I don't even care about? You have not reached a consensus with the Pioneer Party, and let's not talk about whether they have the intention of letting me interfere. Realistically speaking, can you afford to pay for the war employment? Why should I kick aside the Ancient Emperor Party that I'm currently working with to help you? What can you offer me? I know that it's rude to ask you in my own capacity, but I have no other choice, Cecilin said with a deep voice. Cecilin solemnly said, the Ancient Emperor Party sent me over with a mission, which is for me to represent the Ancient Emperor Party to submit a request for employment. They're prepared to use force to eradicate the other two parties and reclaim their territories. So that's the case. Han Xiao understood. The Ancient Emperor Party wanted to resolve the division once and for all, but they did not wish to be controlled by an advanced civilization. Thus, they did not request the help of a star cluster civilization, but wanted a higher external help, which was galactic mercenaries. In the Shattered Star Ring, there were a few large mercenary organizations, and the most representative of them were the Mercenary League, Bloodshed Land, and the Black Star Corps. Because the Black Star Corps was the head of the Mercenary League and was an ally of the Bloodshed Land, as long as they hired the Black Star Corps, the mercenaries in the Shattered Star Ring would not be hired by employers that opposed the Black Star Corps. After all, the Black Star Corps had a high status and was powerful. Although the mercenaries valued money, they did not want to send themselves to death. At the same time, mercenary groups that were cooperating with each other would not be hired by employers that opposed each other. This was an unspoken rule in the mercenary industry. In the mercenary world of the Shattered Star Ring, the status and influence of the Black Star Corps was already at the peak. As the ruling party, the Ancient Emperor Party had already established a connection with the Black Star Corps. As long as they received assistance, the Pioneer Party that Cecilin had set his eyes on would definitely be wiped out. Thus, he could only take a risk and directly make a request to Han Xiao without sufficient preparation. TSK, I'm really unlucky to have chosen a traitor like you as my emissary. Han Xiao's mouth twitched. Could this be the meaning of, I didn't have a choice in the past, but I want to be a good person now? Han Xiao shook his head. Let's talk about something more practical. Regardless of which party is in power, it doesn't make much of a difference to me. The Ancient Emperor Party definitely offered a reasonable price to cooperate with the Black Star Corps, and you came looking for me without any guarantee. Forget it. I don't wish to say anything unpleasant. This conversation can end here. As he spoke, Han Xiao put down his wine glass, stood up, and walked toward the door with dissatisfaction in his heart. Cecilin's words were pleasant to hear, but he did not even mention any substantial rewards. Han Xiao did not care about the struggle between parties in an unfamiliar civilization. After the Black Star Corps transformed, they had retained their mercenary business, and mercenaries were not charity organizations. Going against the rules of the profession was an act that lacked professional ethics. Without any benefits, he wanted to use his mouth to trick a beyond grade A super? Dream on. Why don't you die from your wishful thinking? Please wait. Cecilin hurriedly stood up. Just as you said, it doesn't matter which party is in power. The Pioneer Party will also maintain a cooperative relationship with you. I hope that you can help the Pioneer Party. The Gilul civilization will become stronger, and the rewards will be greater. The Ancient Emperor Party has already decayed, and the Pioneer Party is the only righteous one. What does the righteousness you speak of have to do with me? Han Xiao did not even turn his head. Every word he said was a banner of righteousness. Since they were all here to make a living, there was no point in doing this. His kindness only existed between those he was familiar with, and it was extremely limited to strangers. This was due to his personality, as well as the coldness created by the era. Furthermore, after experiencing so many things, he naturally would not be so easily convinced by outsiders. Please help the Gilul civilization. Don't. A strange sound came from behind, and Han Shao turned around to see Cecilin crawling on the ground. A calamity grade was begging for help in the most humble manner possible. His tone was anxious, and he had no other words. Glancing at him, Han Shao did not move. He retracted his gaze and was about to push open the door to leave. Right at this moment, a mission popped up on his interface. You have triggered the S-rank mission, Gulul Civilization, Pioneer's Flame. Mission Introduction. The Gulul Civilization is a galactic civilization that has been plagued by internal strife. The severe factional rivalry has caused this civilization to be shrouded in the flames of war. The civilization has not improved for many years and has even been regressing. In order to break this stalemate, Cecilin, as a member of the upper echelon of the Ancient Emperor Party, has decided to join the Pioneer Party and has made a request to you. Mission requirements. Overthrow the rule of the Ancient Emperor Party, eradicate the Descendant Party, and make the Pioneer Party the ruler of the Gulul Civilization. Failure condition. Destruction of the Pioneer Party reward. After completing the mission, the reward will depend on your performance. S-rank mission. Han Zhao's footsteps paused. The coup of a star system civilization was basically the same as an all-out war. It was indeed an S-grade difficulty. It was very difficult for players to influence the direction of a star system civilization's internal war. Of course, he was different. The Black Star Corps was very powerful and had the right to interfere in a cosmic system-level civilization war. This mission was not difficult for him. After thinking for a while, Han Shao did not stop. He quietly pushed open the door and walked out, leaving Cecilin in a daze. S-rank missions were indeed attractive, but helping the Pioneer Party gave him a mission. There was no reason that helping the Ancient Emperor Party would not give him a mission. With Han Zhao's rich experience, he could tell that this was definitely a series of missions. Han Shao was prepared to communicate with the upper echelons of the Gulul civilization and trigger the mission of the other party before deciding what to do. He was never someone who had obsessive-compulsive disorder, where he had to complete every mission that popped up on the interface. S-rank missions were not a small matter. Although the Black Star Corps had the status of a star cluster civilization, it did not mean that they could ignore a star system civilization. Han Shao was very clear that although the Black Star Corps had a high status, it was partly because of him. After all, there was a limit to the development of a faction. The military strength of the Black Star Corps was not a problem for them to fight a star system civilization, but they were still far from a star cluster civilization. Han Shao did not really need the reward of this mission, and he did not care about the reward of a star system civilization. He was only concerned about this matter for the sake of the players. Naturally, he did not intend to personally interfere in this war employment. It would be too much of a bully for a beyond grade 8 to interfere in the battle of a star system civilization. Furthermore, he only wanted to quietly stay in the headquarters to build machinery and wait for the experience penalty period to pass. Thus, this mission was naturally left to the players. Furthermore, the players were indeed the best people to carry out such missions, and they could greatly reduce the casualties of the army. The Battle of Planet Lighthouse had come to an end, and there would probably not be any major events for a long time. The players could only do side missions. Although exploring the flickering world had its benefits, it was a little boring for the players. Thus, he wanted to create a new event to fill this gap and take care of the players' experience in the army. On the other hand, this was also to allow the players to obtain more rewards before the Pro League. The rewards of an S-rank war employment mission would definitely be better than a side mission. Helping the players grow faster within the limits of the version would increase the attractiveness of the faction, and Han Shao had always been doing this. At this moment, Philip appeared in the quantum network. Master Hum, I've found the information on the Ancient Emperor Party that you requested. Upon hearing this, Han Shao entered the quantum network to check the information. In this regard, Cecilin did not lie. He did not dare to lie. The Ancient Emperor Party was indeed not popular, and their rule was rotten. The nobles colluded with each other, and the citizens were filled with complaints. However, they were controlled by high pressure and did not dare speak out. The Advent Party wasn't anything good either, being even more extreme to a certain extent. The Pioneer Party wasn't as good as Cecilin had described them to be, but with the contrast of the other two parties, they were indeed the most reliable of the three main parties. They could be considered generals chosen from generals. After reading it, Han Xiao nodded. Seeing was believing, and he only knew what was going on with the information. Chapter 870. Han Xiao did not immediately contact the Gyul civilization. The banquet was still going on, and he could not afford to neglect these guests. After returning to the banquet, Han Xiao collected quite a number of contact details. Relaxing times always passed quickly, and the banquet soon came to an end. Many guests bade farewell and left the venue. Han Xiao saw Cecilin's figure in the crowd. Cecilin's footsteps were hurried, but his expression remained the same. Revealing his cards to Han Xiao this time was akin to cutting off all means of retreat for him. However, Han Xiao did not intend to report to the party of a star system civilization. He was, after all, a beyond grade A, and he had no obligation to report to these people. The guests left one after another, and mechanical waiters came to clean up the mess. This was the first year of the Evolution Banquet, and its influence was limited. If they wanted to compete with the Tyrant's party, they would need to make a name for themselves in the Shattered Star Ring for the various civilizations to form a habit of attending every year. After leaving the venue, Han Xiao did not stay idle. He met with the elites of the Red Empire alone. These people were more important, so they received special treatment. They did not talk about any serious matters and mainly chatted to get to know each other. These elites all had different levels of influence in the dynasty, and making more friends would help him expand his network in the dynasty. Because of the battle on Planet Lighthouse, Han Zhao's fame and status in the Red Empire had risen. He realized that the attitude of these elites toward him was even more respectful than before, and they no longer treated him as an ordinary beyond grade A ally. Everyone chatted happily. After sending off the elites of the dynasty, Han Xiao returned to his room and got Philip to contact the upper echelons of the Gyul civilization's ancient emperor party. He did not reveal Cecilin's betrayal, but said that Cecilin had already requested war employment and had completed the mission. Thus, he had called to discuss this matter. The upper echelons of the ancient emperor party did not suspect anything and proposed the remuneration. There were rewards, various military resources, mechanical materials, and other practical rewards, as well as long-term mining rights to more resource-rich planets. A normal galactic mercenary organization would only be able to obtain rewards such as the right to use military factories, military resource purchasing channels, and so on. However, the Black Star Army had a different background, so they were able to obtain things such as the right to mine resource planets, which normal mercenary groups could not obtain. As expected, the Gyul civilization's civil war was indeed a series of missions. After contacting the ancient emperor party, an S-rank mission popped up on his interface. It was different from the Pioneer Party's flame of the Pioneer mission. This mission was called Upholding the Orthodoxy, and the goal was to help the ancient emperor party suppress the other parties and reclaim their territories. Without giving the ancient emperor party a proper reply, Han Xiao ended the call and rubbed his chin. They're all S-rank missions, so the rewards should be about the same. Perhaps there's a slight difference in the difficulty of the missions. For example, the ancient emperor party is the strongest, so it's easier to suppress them. On the other hand, the descendant party is the weakest, so the rewards should be greater. After thinking about it, Han Xiao got Philip to check on the current leader of the Pioneer Party. Cecilin was just an unexpected factor, and Han Xiao planned to directly contact the Pioneer Party. The Gyul civilization's military was divided, so the Pioneer Party had their own territory on the surface, and it was easy to find their number. The call was quickly connected. "You are." The secretary's figure appeared on the screen, and before he could finish his sentence, he saw Han Zhao's appearance and was shocked. Black Star? Han Xiao was too famous in the Shattered Star Ring, and while ordinary people might not recognize him, as an official of a star system civilization, it was impossible for this secretary not to recognize this face. Han Zhao's call made him fall into disbelief. "Connect me to the leader of your Pioneer Party," Han Xiao said calmly. Oh, I'll connect you to the internal line immediately. No, please wait a moment, the secretary stammered. While they were not the ruling party, the leader of the Pioneer Party was not someone that ordinary people could meet as and when they wanted to. However, an important figure like Black Star was clearly an exception. Not long after, the leader of the Pioneer Party came online, and the shock in his eyes could not be concealed. He had been waiting for an important call when he suddenly received the news that Black Star was calling. He was also shocked and had yet to recover from the shock. Why would Black Star, who had never interacted with them before, suddenly look for them, and even specifically ask to meet him? Your Excellency Black Star, why are you looking for me? The leader of the Pioneer Party asked cautiously. I've also heard about the situation of your guild civilization. Not long ago, the Ancient Emperor Party sent me a war mercenary request, wanting to borrow the strength of the Black Star Corps to eliminate the other parties. Are you aware of this matter? Is this true? The leader of the Pioneer Party's expression changed. It was not that he did not know about this matter. In fact, he had been waiting for the report from his spy. Their spy in the Ancient Emperor Party had heard some unusual movements and guessed that the other party wanted to seek external help. Now, this was confirmed by Black Star. The leader of the Pioneer Party knew the severity of the matter and immediately panicked. However, he quickly reacted. If Black Star had accepted, why would he inform them? Why would Black Star call them? With a flash of inspiration, the leader of the Pioneer Party thought that he understood the meaning behind Black Star's words. Your Excellency Black Star, no matter what price the Ancient Emperor Party offered, we will double it. As long as the Black Star Corps is willing to assist us in overthrowing the Ancient Emperor Party, we will definitely not go back on our words. Since the purpose of the visit had been made clear, there was no need for pleasantries. The leader of the Pioneer Party went straight to the point. He truly desired the assistance of the Black Star Corps, but before today, he had never thought about it. The Ancient Emperor Party had only been in contact with the Black Star Corps for roughly a year. It was only limited to business cooperation. On the other hand, the Pioneer Party had never interacted with the Black Star Corps before. Damn, he's treating me as a warmonger. Han Zhao's brows twitched. However, from the perspective of the leader of the Pioneer Party, this was indeed the case. After all, the leader of the Pioneer Party knew nothing about Cecilin. Thinking about it, Han Xiao was not interested in exposing Cecilin. After all, this fellow had brought him a mission, and before he took the initiative to betray him, he would just let him hide his achievements and reputation. After pondering for a moment, under the nervous gaze of the leader of the Pioneer Party, Han Xiao slowly nodded his head. All right, let's do that. When the time comes, I'll get someone to look for you to sign an employment contract. With that, he hung up the call. Looking at the black screen, the leader of the Pioneer Party slumped into his chair and fell into a daze. He felt as though he was dreaming. Without any warning, he had obtained the help of a major organization like the Black Star Corps in less than a few minutes of discussion. At this moment, he deeply experienced the terrifying power of the Black Star Army, which could decide the life and death of others with just a thought. With a huge external force like the Black Star Army, the stalemate of the Gyul civilization for many years finally welcomed a turning point. Could it be that Black Star is really doing this for the sake of being a warmonger? There doesn't seem to be a need for him to do this. At this moment, the leader of the Pioneer Party had doubts. The Black Star clearly had no relationship with the Pioneer Party, so why would he suddenly choose them? There must be a reason behind this that I don't know. The leader of the Pioneer Party had a gloomy expression. However, since Black Star did not say anything, he had forgotten to ask, and it was not appropriate to ask now. The leader of the Pioneer Party did not want to be kept in the dark. He decided to slowly investigate what had happened in a place that he did not know. Someone must have done something to cause Black Star to take the initiative to look for him. On the other side, Han Xiao put away his communicator. This small episode had come to an end for him. He only needed to wait for the Pioneer Party to sign an employment contract with the Army's mercenary department before sending out a faction mission. The rest would be the matter of the players and Army members. This was equivalent to pulling a project for the army players to do, and he did not need to pay attention to the rest. Choosing to help the Pioneer Party had nothing to do with Cecilin. Among the three parties, the Pioneer Party was relatively better. Only when one's own interests were protected would one have the right to do good deeds. This had always been his motto. On the other hand, the Pioneer Party seemed more righteous, and many players liked this. This was another pursuit of the players other than their own interests. Therefore, under these considerations, the Ancient Emperor Party and the more extreme Descender Party were eliminated. Helping a relatively righteous party would help increase the players' sense of identity toward the army. At the very least, it would not cause any disgust from the players. A few days later, the elites of the various civilizations left the Black Star Corps headquarters one after another. The spaceship of the Gyul civilization left the port and headed into space. Cecilin looked at the Black Star Corps until it disappeared from his sight, and he could not hide the disappointment on his face. 2 days ago, the leader of the Ancient Emperor Party had specially contacted him and praised his contributions. He said that Black Star had already contacted them and believed that they would receive the assistance of the Black Star Corps very soon. I wasn't able to convince Black Star. Pioneer Party. Cecilin was depressed. He did not feel that he alone would be able to change the situation of the Pioneer Party. Right at this moment, his comrade beside him suddenly exclaimed into the communicator, "Look, the Pioneer Party just announced that they have reached an agreement with the Black Star Corps and are going to launch an all-out attack." What? Everyone on the ship was shocked and took out their communicators to check. Cecilin's face was filled with astonishment, and he also took out his communicator to check. The more he read, the more agitated he became. How could this be? Could it be that my words were really effective? Cecilin was so agitated that he could not control himself. His actions had really brought about a turnaround, allowing Black Star to make a different decision. If he had not taken this risk, Black Star would most likely have agreed to the Ancient Emperor Party's request and would not have had the time to understand the situation of the Gyul civilization. Regardless of what conditions the Pioneer Party had reached with Black Star, regardless of what Black Star was thinking, he had contributed greatly. Just like two different tracks, he had pushed the wrench and caused fate to deviate from its original path. Cecilin turned to look in the direction of the Black Star Corps. Although he knew that Black Star did not need his gratitude, he still had a look of gratitude on his face. He was not sure if Black Star had exposed his identity or not, so he silently placed this matter in his heart. He felt that he had only done the right thing and did not intend to claim credit from the Pioneer Party. In the military machinery factory, Han Shao released the faction mission that he had set up and opened the forums to take a look. The players of the army were already very familiar with this kind of war employment. Every time, it represented a large-scale operation, and the players had always loved such big events. This time, they were participating in a star system-level war to help a party eliminate a competitor. They had teammates on their side, and the opponent was not an entire star system-level civilization. The difficulty was just right for the current players. The army players were extremely interested and enthusiastically participated, calling for their friends on the forums. After taking a few looks and confirming that there was no problem with the players' reactions, Han Shao closed the forums. The players would do what they wanted, and he did not need to worry about them. This star system level war employment would probably last until the end of the version, and the players would have things to do for a long time. This way, I can have some free time to build my mech legion. Han Shao exhaled. After the experience penalty period, he still had to deal with ES God. Making him shut his mouth forever was the most important thing. Before that, Han Shao decided to stay in the military machinery factory and go into seclusion, no longer paying attention to all the miscellaneous matters in the outside world. ES God was already strong enough, and now that he had even evolved, his strength was unimaginably high. Thinking about this, Han Shao felt quite a bit of psychological pressure. In order to kill this guy, he had to make a lot of preparations. Chapter 871. Half a month later, Central Galaxy, Radiant Federation Mother Planet, President's Office. Vader was the only one in the room. and a remote projection was floating in front of him. His appearance was that of a normal galactic human. He was of average height and wore a large white robe. There were many wrinkles on his face, and he looked a little old. However, his spirit was very hale and hearty. His eyes were glowing like two miniature stars, extremely dazzling and bright. Ordinary people would find it difficult to look at them directly. His beard reached his chest, and his hair was also very long, tied up with a few silver hairbands. His beard and hair were all silver and had a metallic texture, like flowing liquid alloy. This projection was the original appearance of the Mecha Empire's Madison. His expression was calm, and he gave off a calm aura. He was currently talking to Bader. My troops have already sent the 10,000 deity scepter to the research station you designated. The handover has been completed. Madison's voice was old and filled with magnetism, the kind that carried electricity. Thank you. Bader nodded with a smile. The promised reward will be sent to the mechanical race. The Mecha Empire and the Radiant Federation had been in an alliance for many years. Due to his strength, influence, and past achievements, Madison's position in the Radiant Federation was extremely high. Vader was very respectful of the Mecha Empire and had always carefully protected the alliance between the two sides. After all, before him, Madison had already assisted several presidents of the Radiant Federation. Of course, this was also due to the Federation system. Compared to the Red Empire and the Arcane Church, their leaders changed more frequently. Madison nodded, changed the topic, and slowly said, "There's one more thing. Please speak. Remember to call me when you go to contact Blackstar." Bader was stunned. "Why are you suddenly bringing this up? Why do you think we should contact Blackstar?" After this incident, Balder did not dare to underestimate Han Shao, but he was not prepared to send someone to contact him on behalf of the Radiant Federation because there was no need. Blackstar was an ally of the dynasty, and his family was huge. Once a beyond grade, joined a universal civilization, it was basically impossible for him to jump ship unless there was a special reason. Otherwise, the dynasty would not let him go. Thus, Bader did not plan to contact Han Shao. After thinking about it, Bader thought that Madison was purely interested in Blackstar, so he nodded and agreed. It was normal for beyond grade A mechanics to be interested in communication, so he was not surprised. "If there's nothing else, I'm going offline." Madison nodded and then hung up. Seeing this, Bader waited for more than 10 seconds before contacting the dynasty's beyond grade of virtual mechanic. There were no abnormalities in the quantum network monitoring just now, right? No. Hearing this, Bader was relieved. Although he trusted Madison, he still had to be cautious. After all, Madison was not a direct member of the Radiant Federation, but an ally of the Ancient Ones. He might even be the strongest virtual mechanic of this era. Thus, every time they contacted each other, he would have the dynasty's virtual mechanic monitor the network to prevent Madison from opening a backdoor. At the same time, in the distant primeval Star River, Madison opened his eyes, and his consciousness exited the quantum network. His lips curled up, and an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. The material used to wrap the 10,000 deity scepter has already reached the level of a space wonder. The Radiant Federation is going to have a headache this time. When Madison accepted the mission, he knew that he would be able to come into contact with the 10,000 deity scepter. Thus, he had specially brought along a lot of research equipment. His long-range troops had already briefly studied the protective layer outside the 10,000 deity scepter. However, the space-time amber blocked out all forms of energy, and it was difficult to even detect the various parameters. Madison's long-range troops only discovered some clues through the space research equipment of the space-time amber. The only thing they could analyze was that the space-time coefficient of the space-time amber was strangely distorted and constant at a certain value. He tried to break the space-time amber by disturbing the space-time coefficient, but the space-time amber also isolated the effects of external changes. This piece of frozen space-time was extremely stable. Madison still had not figured out the material structure of the amber. It was both a physical object and had the characteristics of a domain. Under a microscope, it appeared as the universe itself, and it was an area without motion. Since there was no movement of particles, time did not seem to exist. This seemed to be the principle of freezing. Madison thought of the exploration era in history. The three universal civilizations had changed the physical constants of the universe near their mother planet, forming a sealed and safe area. The space-time amber seemed to follow a similar principle, perhaps even stranger. If this material was another condensed secondary space independent of the universe, it would definitely have unique physical constants. He was very knowledgeable and believed that this material had already reached the level of a space wonder. After studying it, he ruled out the possibility that the space-time amber was a technology. He did not think that Han Shao had such an ability, so he became interested in creating universal treasures of this material. Other than Black Star himself, it should be very difficult for others to break it. Thus, Madison was certain that the Radiant Federation would definitely try to contact Black Star, and it would not be long before that happened. I'll go and get to know him on the way. He seems to have bullied my people before. Madison narrowed his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. In a certain research base in the Radiant Federation's military control zone, not long ago, Madison's troops had delivered the 10,000 deity scepter. At this time, it was fixed in a huge mechanical cabin. Outside was a pile of research equipment, and many researchers were focused on operating the equipment. This was an integrated substance analyzer that could analyze many parameters of a target without damaging it. It was the standard product of advanced civilization researchers. Of course, the one made by the Radiant Federation was more useful. As long as it was something real, it could analyze it. The director of the research base stood by the side and stared at the 10,000 deity scepter with great concentration. President Bader had given the order to break the seal of the 10,000 deity scepter. The director of the research base knew the importance of this matter, so he personally took charge of the project. To be in charge of such an important research base, the director was not an ordinary person. He was an important figure in the highest research institute of the Radiant Federation and had made many significant contributions to scientific research. He had many honorary titles and was even personally awarded the Medal of Honor by the president. Reporting to the director, the equipment has been adjusted. The substance analyzer is ready. Should we begin the first analysis? Let's begin. The director nodded. The researcher pressed a button, and the next moment, the substance analyzer began to operate, emitting a soft, buzzing sound. Everyone stared at the screen as the data on it changed rapidly. After a while, the auxiliary artificial intelligence came to a surprising conclusion. Data error. Target cannot be analyzed. Target has energy insulation properties. The probing rays are unable to attach or penetrate it. The substance analyzer was useless? The director was surprised. It was not that he had never seen such a situation before, but it was very rare. Once it happened, it meant that they had encountered something troublesome. The research base of the Radiant Federation naturally had more than one type of detection equipment. The director tried all of them, but after a few hours, he only received a few thin pages of reports. A normal substance would have at least 1,000 pages of reports, but the space-time amber's parameters that could be detected were pitifully few. He still knew nothing about it. If Madison could detect abnormal space-time coefficients, so could they. Not only that, the director tried even more methods to crack it, but none of them worked. They could not even perform a normal test, let alone crack it. The director became more and more surprised, and his head started to hurt. Conventional methods were all ineffective, and he did not know where to start. What the hell was this? As a researcher, he was full of curiosity and had the mentality of challenging the unknown. He would not give up easily, but interest was interest. He still had a mission. Thinking of Bader's request, the director's heart sank. He had a premonition that the president's hopes would be dashed. The difficulty of cracking this thing seemed to be beyond their imagination. Chapter 872. It Can't Be Cracked? In the president's office, Bader received the detailed report from the research station and read it with a frown. He could not hide the shock in his eyes. He had never doubted the technological prowess of the Radiant Federation. He originally thought that cracking the seal of the 10,000 deity scepter would be a piece of cake, but he did not expect the research station to give him such a surprise. A special substance at the level of a space wonder. It seems to be a frozen space-time with abnormal physical constants. Bader carefully read the report from the beginning as he muttered to himself. Suddenly, his eyes flashed as he thought of something. He logged into the intranet and pulled up a set of confidential information. On the cover was the file number and a level 16 icon. This was the confidential level of the information. In the Radiant Federation, internal information was divided into levels 1 to 20. Levels 1 to 5 were classified as information that could be made public, such as financial reports over the years. Levels 6 to 10 were classified as ordinary secrets, and most government officials could access them, but it was only limited to information related to their own positions. Levels 11 to 15 were classified as high-level secrets, and all traces of access were recorded. Furthermore, based on the reader's resume and reading authority, there would be appropriate erasures in the information to hide some details. Levels 16 to 19 were classified as top secrets, and basically, only high-ranking officials with real power could access them. Levels 20 to 20 were classified as special information, and no one was allowed to take the initiative to access them. It was almost never made public. Verifying identity. Welcome, Your Excellency President. You have level 19. 5 reading authority. You have the right to view the complete information. Removing smears. Removal complete. Bader tapped the virtual screen with his finger and flipped the page. The title page was the title of the information. Spacetime Freezer's Files. This primordial one had once served the Radiant Federation during the exploration era. The Radiant Federation kept his file, and it contained information that was countless times more detailed than the outside world, including the records and analysis of his Esper ability. After Bader finished reading the research report on the Spacetime Amber, he immediately thought of this primordial one, whose ability was somewhat similar. The leaders of universal civilizations had all undergone special training. They knew the history, confidential information, and technology of their own civilization like the back of their hand, and they formed a memory palace to store it. These were all compulsory courses, which was why Bader could immediately recall the existence of the Spacetime Freezer. Spacetime Freezer. Frogo has the ability to freeze spacetime. This ability is listed in the super high-risk Esper ability list. It can freeze the time and space of a specific area or target, and it can greatly affect beyond grade as. Its effect far exceeds the spacetime spells of the mage class. He once froze an entire planet. See Appendix B, 004 for details. He has also frozen enemy fleets many times on the battlefield, causing the enemy to be unable to fight back, allowing our fleet to nibble away at the enemy. This ability has reversed hundreds of local wars. See Appendix B, 027 for details. According to our investigations, Frogo has to continuously consume energy to maintain the space-time freezing effect in an area. See Appendix 001 for details. If the energy supply is cut off, the freezing effect will quickly disappear. The usage of this ability can be fine-tuned. Frogo once used the method of freezing the space around him to defend himself. It has the best defense against physical objects and most forms of energy, but it is not immune to psychic attacks that directly affect the mind. Subsequent tests have shown that although this ability can imprison souls, it is unable to stop the consciousness of souls. This is the flaw of Frogo's Esper ability, proving that his space-time freeze is not perfect. Frogo sacrificed himself in the Battle of Planet Millennium. See Appendix B, 1940 for details. His body disappeared without a trace. Bader frowned and pondered. It is indeed very similar. Could there be a connection between the two? But even Frogo himself does not have the ability to materialize frozen space-time. What is this? Naturally, he did not know that the space-time amber had wandered the universe for many years and absorbed all kinds of cosmic radiation. It had already mutated. Esper abilities were the product of genetic mutation. Frogo's ability was flawed. Although he could freeze space-time, he could not defend against psychic attacks. However, the space-time amber no longer had this flaw after it mutated. Even psychic attacks could not penetrate the amber it created. After thinking about it, Bader sent this information to the head of the research department, hoping that it would be of help to his research. After completing this task, Bader rubbed his forehead in frustration and helplessness. The difficulty of deciphering the space-time amber was beyond his expectations. Bader was now a little uncomfortable. He thought that he had taken the trump card of the arcane church, but he could only look at it and could not use it. It was just a decoration. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that even if the arcane church took it back, Ethereal would not be able to decipher this thing. This should have been a headache for the arcane church, but now it was their turn to have a headache. They even offended the arcane church because of this and only took back something that no one could use. So what was the point of us taking this thing back? Being the Oriole behind the mantis seemed to be a huge loss. Bader was very annoyed. Black Star, this be asterisk starred. No, I'm the president. I can't use vulgarities. This Black Star is really despicable. No wonder Manison thought that I would send someone to meet Black Star. He also discovered the strangeness of this thing. Looks like I really need to find a chance to contact Black Star in private. Bader shook his head. He was not willing to guard the 10,000 deity scepter, but not be able to use it. It just so happens that the descendants of the space-time freezer can be the emissary. Maybe they can find some clues and see if the universal treasure in Black Star's hands is really related to their ancestor, the space-time freezer. Bader thought to himself. On the other side, the arcane church had the same problem. After negotiations, the Red Empire had agreed to let the arcane church redeem one beyond Greta first. After paying a huge price, the arcane church got Dylan back from the dynasty. Actually, they wanted to get Photon Sagman back, but the dynasty did not agree. After all, according to normal logic, the first to be returned would be the weakest. However, the seal on Dylan's space-time amber had not been unsealed. The dynasty expressed that they would let the arcane church deal with it themselves. This was mainly to verify Han Zhao's words and see if the space-time amber was as troublesome as he said. On the other hand, the Red Empire still did not know that the Radiant Federation had stolen the 10,000 deity scepter. Therefore, Urimel's idea was that if Dylan ran out alive one day, it would indirectly prove that the arcane church had unsealed the 10,000 deity scepter, so they would not be caught off guard one day. The dynasty did not allow them to unseal the space-time amber, using the excuse that Black Star was in seclusion and did not want to disturb him. What else could the arcane church do? They could only do it themselves and let the researchers try to unseal Dylan. The result was the same as the Radiant Federation. They could not do anything about the space-time amber for the time being. The arcane church was also annoyed, but other than that, they were actually a little relieved. They were annoyed because the dynasty had tricked them again, and they had to pay a higher price to ask the Red Empire to unseal the space-time amber. They were relieved because the Radiant Federation was most likely in the same situation as them and could not do anything about the 10,000 deity scepter seal. Although their universal treasure had been taken away by the Radiant's Backstab King Federation, the silver lining was that the Radiant Federation could only look at it through a layer of protective film. They could not use it even if they wanted to. It was like their wife had fallen into the hands of a criminal, but the criminal was powerless to do anything about it. This was very comforting. If it weren't for the fact that they had a grudge against Black Star, the Arcane Church would almost praise him. Therefore, the Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church paid close attention to each other's research. They wanted to see what progress each other had made. It was like two desk mates stretching their necks to secretly peek at each other's answers during an exam. With the Arcane Church indirectly admitting defeat, the conflict between the two sides was no longer as intense. The soldiers exerting pressure at the border were also gradually withdrawn. The galactic organizations that were paying attention to this matter all heaved a sigh of relief. As the Overlord organizations, the conflict between these two organizations had not completely erupted. Only then would they have a good life. After a small fluctuation in the overall galactic situation of the explored universe, it gradually calmed down. The Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church temporarily ceased all activities. The supercluster civilizations that took advantage of the loopholes also kept a low profile. No one wanted to continue provoking the Red Empire at this time. They were all waiting for the storm to completely pass. The Black Star Corps fleet, carrying a large number of Black Star troopers, arrived at the star system where the Gulul civilization was located. The outpost planet of the Pioneer Party was in sight. Under the guidance of the ground personnel, the Black Star Corps fleet landed in batches. From the 1,000-meter-long black battleships, Army members swarmed out like a tide and gathered at every port. Other than the proper Army warriors, there were also millions of Army players participating. War employment was a huge collective event, and it was more interesting than exploring the flickering world. Thus, the majority of them accepted this Grade S mission and came to participate in the civil war of a star system civilization as mercenaries. Half a month ago, the Pioneer Party announced that they would be joining forces with the Black Star Corps. Just the news of the Black Star Corps joining and caused huge waves within the Gulul civilization. The Ancient Emperor Party and the Descendant Party were shocked, and the party fell into a short period of internal strife. A portion of the upper echelons either fled or joined the Pioneer Party. The remaining hardline members decided to strike first, and the two parties joined forces to attack the territory of the Pioneer Party from different directions. The three parties did not need to prepare in advance for a war because the long period of division had made the three parties constantly on alert. The three parties divided the territory of the Gulul civilization and formed three factions in this star system. They each had their own military fleets at the edge of their territory. After a long period of confrontation, the foreman would be able to start the war with just a shout. Thus, the Black Star Corps joined in at the exact moment when the three parties were fighting. After the officers of the Pioneer Party negotiated with the commander of the Black Star Corps fleet, the star map and mission list of the millions of Army players were updated. The Pioneer Party provided the military star map, marking the detailed distribution of the forces of the other two parties in the 9-star zones of the local star system. The majority of the Black Star Corps had returned to the flickering world to explore, and the rest still had to guard the various bases. Thus, they did not send many mercenaries, and they did not have an overwhelming advantage. Thus, this civil war would not end in a short period of time. The main goal was to wipe out the enemy and reclaim the enemy's colonial planets. Every colonial planet, resource planet, and military base that had yet to be reclaimed were all battlefield missions for the players to choose from. Thus, there were many opportunities for ground battles. After all, this was a civil war, and they would not choose to bombard the colonial planets. This gave the players a chance to use their skills. With over 1 million Grey players, their specialty was ground battles. After reading the mission introduction, the players were all excited. They had experienced many things so far and instantly knew that this was the most comfortable type of mission. Fighting with spaceships was very troublesome, and the players liked to fight monsters on the ground the most. In this battlefield employment, their role was clearly to clear the ground troops. There was no need to think about anything else. They just had to enjoy the battle to their heart's content. The size and level of the enemies on every colonial planet were clearly indicated, and the players could choose according to their discretion. The level of the enemies was also very clear. With the current strength of the players, the enemies could be roughly divided into unparalleled ordinary soldiers, Grade C high-level monsters, Grade B elite monsters, Grade B mini-bosses, and some famous Calamity grade bosses. The players were very satisfied with this mission. They were important participants in the war this time, and they could fight to their heart's content. Finally, they were not watching a cutscene. Chapter 873. 1 month later, the Pioneer Party held back the attacks of the Ancient Emperor Party and the Descendant Party while using the Black Star Corps to launch a counterattack. The fleets of the three parties invaded the other party's territory through the gaps in the defense line, and the direction of the attacks of the fleets appeared on the tactical star map. At this moment, a colonial planet outside of the ancient Emperor Party was being attacked by the Pioneer Party. The Pioneer Party and the Black Star Corps fleets were engaged in an intense battle with the planet's defense fleet. At the same time, they launched airstrikes toward the various cities on the ground, accurately bombarding the protective shield of the cities with the intention of blasting open a gap to release airdrop pods. The pale yellow, semicircular light curtain was like an upside-down bowl, covering the entire capital city of the colonial planet and withstanding the continuous bombardment from the sky. Blue-black energy blooms exploded on the light curtain of the light curtain, and the scurrying electric arcs flowed on the surface of the light curtain endlessly. The durability of the light curtain decreased rapidly, and the city's light curtain flickered unstably. Considering the various factors of the Civil War, the local army forcefully closed the underground shelters and did not allow the citizens to enter. Countless citizens could only hide in their houses and tremble in fear. The ground troops of the city gathered and looked up at the sky. The dazzling light of the explosions filled their vision, and the deafening sound of the explosions was like a hammer smashing into their hearts. Everyone's eyes were filled with despair like that of a trapped beast. Kacha! The large protective shield of the city finally could not withstand the attacks, and cracks spread out in front of everyone's eyes. Following which, the entire protective shield was like an eggshell that had been smashed, with holes appearing one after another. The entire shield rapidly collapsed. In the next moment, countless small black dots appeared in the sky, falling rapidly with tails of flames behind them. They were like countless meteorites, smashing toward the capital. The anti-air cannons of the city immediately opened fire, and a light bullet shot toward the airdrop pods, exploding in midair. A portion of the airdrop pod's protective shield was destroyed and exploded into pieces. However, even more airdrop pods smashed into different parts of the city, causing smoke and dust to fly everywhere. Looking down from the sky, the black mass of army players swarmed out of the airdrop pods and bloomed in the city. This batch of players numbered in the thousands, and they formed small teams and quickly moved out. All of them were equipped with detectors that covered the entire area and marked all threatening targets that carried weapons. This was to distinguish between the enemy and the civilians. The army players who had descended were very familiar with this task and cleaned up the enemy's ground forces. Battles quickly broke out in various locations of the city. The players exchanged fire with the ground troops. Although they were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, these players were basically all grade B, and most of the enemies were ordinary soldiers who relied on armor to have a certain level of combat power. B-Class was the backbone of the interstellar galaxy. Each of them had the combat strength of an army. Smashing a building was a piece of cake for them. The players weren't like normal B-Class characters. They weren't worried about being focused on and fought without any reservations. The guards on the ground were horrified to discover that these interstellar mercenaries were charging forward while carrying the cannons. They were not afraid of death and could quickly cut into their positions, activating their unparalleled mode. As long as a battle broke out, the players would be able to quickly defeat the enemy and slaughter batch after batch of ground troops. Wherever they passed, there would be no survivors. On the tactical view, the small black dots that represented the airdrop squads were moving rapidly in the city map. The red dots that represented the enemy spread all over the city were quickly eliminated and became sparser and sparser. At the center of the city, the government building had already been invaded by the 7 teams of players. In a certain room, a Grey-B warrior of the ancient Emperor Party knelt on the ground with his eyes wide open. He stared at the actions of the person in front of him. The person in front of him pulled out the thin blade that had pierced through his throat, causing blood to splatter onto the wall. His life force flowed out of his body, and he collapsed onto the ground. Fresh blood flowed out, forming a pool of blood. This fellow's level is pretty high. I only have 37% of my health left. Mad Blade held onto the thin sword with one hand and shook off the blood on it. His mechanical force activated a mechanism, causing the blade to retract back into the handle. He then stuffed the handle into the long gap on the arm of the armor. With a click, the magnetic link sucked the handle in and tightly fitted it. The silver-black armor that he was currently wearing was a mechanical pugilist equipment, and there were folded mechanical weapons hidden all over it. The corpses of the guards were strewn all over the room, and the members of the Rivervale Guild and team were all by the side. They had just dealt with the enemies in the room and were using the automatic repair tools to restore the durability of their armor. At the same time, they were also looting the corpses on the ground. Intense gunfire could be heard coming from the direction of the door. This Grade B general that had been killed seemed to be rather important and had attracted a large number of enemy troops. Maple Moon was guarding the door and had used compressed orbs to set up a large number of destructive mechanical traps and electromagnetic cannons. With a Grade B mechanic guarding the door, ordinary troops could not break through at all. They were suppressed to the corner of the corridor, and, after a few charges, they only left behind a floor of corpses. Maple Moon usually liked to play with the Rivervale Guild, and Madblade was also willing to bring along reliable mechanics. The two of them had always had a good relationship. Ever since the mechanics came into contact with the compressed orb technology in version 3.0, they instantly became the most popular choice to form a team. Mechanics no longer needed to slowly set up their machines, and the speed at which they set up their machines increased greatly. Now, regardless of whether it was dungeons or doing combat missions, every team had to have a mechanic to deal with all kinds of situations. Of course, every mechanic had different equipment, and they were able to adapt to different situations. I wonder how many more Grade B enemies there are in this city. The vice-captain of the team, Evil Sword, injected himself with cell activation catalyst to recover his health and chatted casually. Mad Blade looked at the real-time battlefield map and said, "There shouldn't be many left. The defenders of this city have almost all been killed by the others. Halcyon and the rest are downstairs. They've already killed 4 Grade B monsters. Our luck is really good. Including this one, we have only killed 2 so far." Evil Sword had an envious look on his face. Grade B were elites, and they would give quite a bit of experience. Furthermore, Grade B elites all had names, and every one of them had additional missions to kill. Apart from experience, they could also receive additional rewards from the Pioneer Party. In the past month, the players have been obsessed with dealing with Grade B enemies. To the current first-tier players, an ordinary player might not be a match for a Grade B elite, but a 5-man team would be able to defeat a Grade B elite. Even if a small boss Grade B enemy was more difficult to deal with, most of them were still within the range of being defeated. In the past, Grade B enemies were experts in the eyes of the players, but to the current players, killing Grade Bs had already become a common occurrence. A star system civilization would only have a dozen or so Calamity Grade supers, and they could only be encountered during crucial battles. Thus, in the other colonial planets, thousands of Grade B players were basically unstoppable. Not long after, the defenders of this city were completely wiped out. The players returned to the airdrop cabins and were brought away by the tractor beam of the spaceship. They were then airdropped to another city and entered a new round of battle. Reports from the front lines. Another 3 colonial planets have been taken down by the Black Star Corps. On the ancient Emperor Party's executive planet, the haggard upper echelons were gathered together and staring at the strategic star map with a frown. The Black Star Corps' immortals are too terrifying. There's simply no way to deal with them, an officer said with a depressed expression. An officer said in frustration, "So far, 21 colonial planets have been taken away by them. If the enemy was only a fleet, they would not have a headache." However, against these immortals, the ancient Emperor Party was completely helpless. Millions of Grade B Black Star troopers were probably more than the number of Grade B troopers in their entire civilization. The worst part was that these people were immortals, and their casualties were practically zero. The upper echelons of the ancient Emperor Party could only watch as the players who could revive took down colonial planets one after another. The immortals of the Black Star Corps were extremely famous in the Shattered Star Ring. This time, they had personally experienced it, and everyone present felt despair. Such an enemy was simply too terrifying. No matter who had such a terrifying trump card, they would definitely have a place in the universe. With the interference of the Black Star Corps, the Ancient Emperor Party did not have much hope. If they continued fighting like this, the Pioneer Party would probably obtain victory in about a year. However, it was impossible for them to surrender. No one was willing to give up on a star system civilization. At the very least, they could still hold on for a year. While the upper echelons of the Ancient Emperor Party were resisting, they were also secretly looking for reinforcements. Cecilin, that be *starred, actually joined the Pioneer Party and took away his subordinates. Who would have thought that he would actually become a traitor? The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party gritted his teeth. We are the ruling party that is working together with the Black Star Corps. How could the Black Star Corps help the Pioneer Party for no reason? This must be Cecilin's doing. There's no other explanation. When Cecilin was mentioned, everyone's face was filled with hatred. If not for him betraying them, they would not have fallen into such a desperate situation. That traitor, I've never mistreated him. I've given him power, I've given him wealth, I've given him everything I could. What's he dissatisfied about? Why did he betray me? The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party slammed the table in anger. He actually dares to say that we have different ideals? What a joke. Look at what he has done. In order to carry out his ideals, he did not hesitate to let so many of his comrades die. Does he think that he is a great person? We have been ruling well, but because of him, this civilization is about to lose its most orthodox ruler. He deserves to die. Hearing this, the upper echelons looked to the side. None of them agreed, and their expressions were that of speechlessness. Their hearts were filled with confidence. Others had the qualifications to say such things, but they did not. After all, they had done a lot of dirty work over the years. How could they not be clear about the nature of the Ancient Emperor Party? In their view, the leader was so angry that he was venting his anger that he started spouting nonsense. However, right at this moment, the Ancient Emperor Party leader's cursing came to an abrupt stop. His furious expression froze for a moment before he calmed down. He slowly stood up and spoke with a tone that was completely different from the one before him. It seems that everyone is vexed. Perhaps I can help everyone. The upper echelons were stunned, and their expressions changed drastically as they stood up. This phenomenon was the leader being controlled by someone. The leader of a star system civilization would receive the support of calamity-grade spells and psychic energy in order to prevent others from controlling their mind. At the very least, a calamity grade would not be able to control the consciousness of a star system civilization leader in front of everyone. Who did it? Could be a beyond grade A. Who are you? An officer's face was filled with wariness as he secretly sent a message to his adjutant, ordering all the calamity-grade supers to rush over. There is no need to be nervous. I have no ill intentions toward you. As for my identity, I do not intend to tell you. The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party was expressionless as he slowly said, all you need to know is that I will provide you with military force and resources to help you deal with the Black Star Corps. The upper echelons were skeptical, and they looked at each other. Regardless of whether it was true or not, they would still pretend to be polite. At the same time, they were worried that they or their comrades would be controlled. This mysterious person clearly had such an ability. What do you want? Don't worry, I don't want anything. Then why are you helping us? I don't care about your Gilul civilization. I'm only interested in the undying of the Black Star Corps. The longer you guys persist, the longer I will be able to observe you. The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party narrowed his eyes and said, my suggestion will only benefit you guys. Do you accept it? Everyone looked at each other before nodding with hesitation. Very good. I will get someone to contact you guys as soon as possible. By the way, I'll give you guys a suggestion. You guys could try to hire the undying of the Black Star Corps. Everyone was stunned. The Black Star Corps is our enemy, and you want us to seek help from them? What is the meaning of this? That group of heavens. That group of undying has a unique way of doing things, and some of their actions cannot be judged by logic. If we don't try, how will we know if it will work? The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party said with a playful tone. The moment he said that, the leader of the Ancient Emperor Party suddenly shivered, and his eyes became blank. He then suddenly reacted and hurriedly touched his body. The person controlling me has left? Everyone heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly went up to support the leader. Do you still remember what you said when you were being controlled? I remember everything. At that time, I was unable to control my body, but my senses were still present. Right at this moment, the Calamity Grade Super who had stayed behind to guard the Ancient Emperor party arrived. After hearing what had happened, he inspected the leader of the Ancient Emperor party with a solemn expression. How is it? The leader of the Ancient Emperor party asked. Your mental defense enchantments have all been broken, and it was done in an instant. Those enchantments are enough to withstand the continuous invasion of a Calamity Grade Super for more than 10 minutes. The person controlling you is definitely a beyond Grade A Super. The leader of the Ancient Emperor party's expression changed slightly. The term beyond grade was extremely important to a star system civilization. Of the 5 beyond grade, as in the Shattered Star Ring, only Cisco and Austin had the ability to invade their minds. Perhaps it was not those two, but another beyond grade A from another star field? Thinking about the words of the mysterious person, everyone had a strange expression. They had never expected that they would receive help in such a manner. However, regardless of the situation, there was still a chance. Although they did not know who this person was, since he was also a beyond grade A, he should not be afraid of the Black Star Corps. Right? He even told us to seek help from the enemy. Isn't that a joke? Don't tell me the Black Star Corps will turn around and help us? Everyone was confused by this suggestion. It was clearly a futile action, and they did not know the meaning behind it. Since we have no way out, let's give it a try. The leader of the Ancient Emperor party nodded. Chapter 874. The ruling planet of the Pioneer Party was located in the 3rd star zone that they controlled, and the upper echelons of the party were paying attention to the development of the battle. In the conference room, the upper echelons of the Pioneer Party were gathered, and the atmosphere was completely different from the gloomy atmosphere of the Ancient Emperor Party. Everyone's faces were filled with joy, and the leader of the Pioneer Party was in high spirits. The army had gained the upper hand in the battle, and there was no way they could not be happy. The Ancient Emperor Party and the Descendant Party have been forced to retreat, and the people are looking forward to us overthrowing their rule. The current situation is extremely advantageous for us, the strategist said. The leader of the Pioneer Party had a smile on his face, but he said, at such a time, we have to be more careful and prevent the enemy from retaliating. The situation was great, but he knew that it was impossible for the Ancient Emperor Party to surrender. The side that had lost the military would definitely be exterminated, and the Ancient Emperor Party would not allow themselves to be slaughtered. Just as everyone was discussing the situation, the internal communication device suddenly rang. It was a communication request from an intelligence officer. The figure of the intelligence officer appeared on the virtual screen with a weird expression. Your Excellency, the Ancient Emperor Party has made a public announcement. Send it over immediately. The Pioneer Party leader's brows twitched. Very quickly, the intelligence officer displayed the Ancient Emperor Party's announcement on the screen, and the upper echelons of the Pioneer Party read it carefully. In the first half of the announcement, the Ancient Emperor Party claimed to be the rightful ruler of the Gyulul civilization and used fierce words to reprimand the Pioneer Party for seizing power. They labeled them as traitors and called them traitors of the civilization. They also called on the citizens to oppose the Pioneer Party and openly recruited helpers from the galaxy. This part of the content was just a standard way to protect their rightful position and suppress their opponents. This method had been used for many years, and a portion of the citizens were not fools. The upper echelons of the Pioneer Party were also used to it and did not pay much attention to it. Now that they had control of the gun, they would be able to control the pen after winning. Thus, calling them traitors was useless. As for the Ancient Emperor Party's request for reinforcements, they felt that it was a futile effort. This was only a civil war, and it did not go against the peace treaty. With the Black Star Corps on their side, who in the Shattered Star Ring would go against the Black Star Corps for a civil war? Mercenary groups of a certain scale would not help, and the other civilizations would only watch from the sidelines. Even the Bloodshed Land did not want to go against an ally for such a small matter. Thus, the Ancient Emperor Party was isolated without any help. This was the use of the Black Star Corps. Their powerful organization and the huge influence of the complicated web of benefits would cause the enemy to lack support. The Pioneer Party leader patiently read to the end, but was suddenly stunned. Wait a minute. Is the Ancient Emperor Party seeking help from the Black Star Corps? The Pioneer Party leader rubbed his eyes, thinking that he had seen wrongly. At the end of the announcement, the Ancient Emperor Party actually wanted to hire the Black Star Corps to betray them. Even now, they were still trying to convince the Black Star Corps to help them. The upper echelons of the Pioneer Party looked at each other and could not understand what was going on. What was the logic behind requesting help from the enemy? All right, the Black Star Corps might be external aid, but how could they suddenly break the contract? Wouldn't that be destroying their reputation? Furthermore, the Black Star Corps was a beyond grade A organization. Since they had already decided to help the Pioneer Party, how could they change their mind? Wouldn't that be slapping themselves in the face? Even if you want to rope in the Black Star Army, you should at least do it in private. Black Star is a big shot with a reputation, so how can he agree to betray us in public? If he betrayed us, it would be impossible for him to betray us for the sake of money. Even if one used their flagella to think, they would know that this was impossible. If the goal was to sow discord, then this method was too clumsy. It seems like the Ancient Emperor Party has finally gone crazy. The Pioneer Party leader's mouth twitched. This is probably the funniest joke I have ever heard. Ha ha ha. Everyone could not help but laugh, and the room was filled with joy. Thanks to the development of the galactic media, the Ancient Emperor Party's announcement spread throughout the Gyul civilization. Not only the Pioneer Party, but even the Descendant Party was filled with question marks. Is this teammate of mine an idiot? The soldiers of the Ancient Emperor Party felt extremely embarrassed. They were fighting with their lives on the line, but their superiors had actually requested help from the enemy. Many of them could feel the pessimism of the upper echelons of the Ancient Emperor Party, and their morale fell. On the side of the Black Star Corps, many of them felt that this was ridiculous. At the same time, they found it funny. We are in the middle of a war, so can you please be more serious? Don't make fun of us. Just when the others were mocking the Ancient Emperor Party, the millions of army players received a different message. The Ancient Emperor Party's request for help had actually generated a mission on their interface. It was the same mission that Han Shao had triggered in the past. This time, it was an S-rank mission to help the Ancient Emperor Party. This change gave the players a shock. So, this is a faction mission. It should be an S-rank mission that can be triggered by helping any party. However, since the army is helping the Pioneer Party, we will also be helping the Pioneer Party by default. Whoa, doesn't this mean that we can support the party we want? If we succeed, we will be able to change the structure of an entire star system civilization. I seem to have found a way to get rich. What if we convince the NPCs to form a party and support them? Wouldn't that be more fun? The appearance of this mission aroused the interest of many army players, and they began to discuss it enthusiastically on the forums. However, the impact of this new mission was only so, and none of the army players really accepted it. The players were not stupid. If they wanted to complete this mission, they would have to go against the army, which was no different from leaving the faction. After fighting in the army for 2 to 3 versions, they had accumulated so many faction relationships and contribution points. How could they give up so easily? The Black Star Corps had such great growth potential, and betraying the army for a star system civilization civil war was not worth the loss. Furthermore, based on the current situation, the chances of the Ancient Emperor Party winning were too slim, and the failure rate of the mission was 99.9%. They might as well wait for the Pioneer Party's mission. After all, it was also S-rank. Furthermore, after a month of employment, they had already understood the style of the 3 parties. The Ancient Emperor Party was not anything good and was even worse than the Pioneer Party. There was no point in helping them. With Summer Night Flowers setting an example, there were fewer and fewer gamblers in the Shattered Star Ring. Thus, the players were only interested in the details of the Ancient Emperor Party's mission and were not interested in the mission itself. No one wanted to do it. Black Star Corps headquarters Army Commander's Workshop. Large automated production lines operated day and night, producing all sorts of mechanical soldiers and equipment. Mechanical force flowed through them, increasing the quality and efficiency of the products. In another area, all the freshly produced mechanical soldiers and equipment were sent over by the assembly line. Countless mechanical arms wrapped in mechanical force were modifying these products, sharing Han Zhao's enhancement skills. When modifying his own combat machines, he naturally would not be like the players, who would split the enhancement effects into multiple batches to sell for money. Instead, he would enhance them all at once. After the modifications, the quality of the products would increase and the effects would be outstanding. Even the cannon fodder robots were upgraded to orange grade. At Han Zhao's level, these ordinary mechanical soldiers were only one of the tens of millions of cannon fodder. However, to the players, every single one of them was a top-notch mechanical soldier that could not be bought even if they wanted to. Han Zhao stood in front of a control panel and personally assembled a new mechanical body. He hummed a tune and was in a good mood. The smell of metal permeated the surroundings, and rumbling noises reverberated in his ears. Han Zhao was already used to the atmosphere of the workshop, and creating machines was a form of enjoyment. As his mechanical abilities continued to increase, Han technicians' love for mechanical engineering grew deeper and deeper, and the changes in his abilities could also change his interests. For example, poor students would have to rack their brains to solve problems, which was a form of torture. As for straight-A students, Master, I've discovered an interesting piece of news. Shall I read it to you? Philip projected a cartoon version of himself onto the control panel. It was only the size of a palm, and he sat on the edge of the control panel, swinging his legs, looking up at Han Zhao with his cute eyes and speaking in a childish voice. Read it. Han Zhao did not look away and focused on hammering on the metal plate. It's news about the Gyul civilization. The ancient Emperor Party has publicly expressed that they hope that we will help them. Master, what do you think they're thinking? There's such a thing? Do they think that I'm as unprincipled as ES God? Han Zhao was amused. Philip was shocked, and his eyes widened. Isn't Master the same, You also know how to joke. Han Zhao's eyelids twitched, and he chuckled. Deciding to change the topic, he nodded and said, while the ancient Emperor Party's actions are unreasonable, it's understandable. If not for that traitor Cecilin, I wouldn't have any interactions with the Pioneer Party. Right at this moment, Han Zhao's movements paused, and he suddenly recalled a series of missions given by the ancient Emperor Party. He stopped what he was doing and opened the forums to take a look. His brows raised slightly. The players were indeed discussing this matter on the forums, and many of them had posted screenshots of the ancient Emperor Party's S-rank missions. If he had not guessed wrongly, the ancient Emperor Party's request for help had triggered the missions that he had seen before. Han Zhao frowned and stroked his chin out of habit. This matter seemed like the ancient Emperor Party had lost their wits, but he felt that there was something strange about it. This illogical request for help. Han Zhao narrowed his eyes. Is it targeted at the players? It was not that he was paranoid, but there was indeed a coincidence. The actions of the ancient Emperor Party were too sudden, and what others saw as a joke was not a joke to the players, but a trigger for a mission. Was it due to luck, or was it done on purpose? Han Zhao was a little hesitant. There were too few clues, and he could not be sure of his intuition. However, for the sake of caution, he would always consider the worst-case scenario. There was a reason for him to think this way. In his previous life, there had been a similar period. Under the scale of the universe, the players were insignificant existences. However, as the players continued to move around in the universe, the number of powerful galactic organizations paying attention to the players also increased. They slowly studied the habits, characteristics, and patterns of these immortals, just like the Germinal organization back then. Even the current version, there were many galactic organizations paying attention to the players. He had been operating in a Shattered Star Ring for many years, and his strength was high. No one dared to snatch his trump card team, but the situation of the players in the other star fields was different. It was not rare for them to attract the attention of some large organizations. Of course, he was not the only one who was interested in recruiting the players. Han Xiao was not too worried about this. The energy that the players had invested in the army over the past 3 versions was a sunk cost. It would not be so easy for the leaks to be snatched away. Furthermore, ordinary NPCs would at most treat the players as a special force. The others did not have an interface and would not be able to obtain a large amount of experience from the players. However, if there were really people who stole the leaks, it would be an infuriating matter. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. I originally planned to give the Gilul civilization a mission, but it seems like I'll have to observe the situation. Don't tell me that someone has set their eyes on the players. A mysterious fleet entered the border of the Gilul civilization. This was the territory of the Ancient Emperor Party, and the troops of the Ancient Emperor Party were already waiting there to receive the reinforcements. In the flagship, the Ancient Emperor Party leader looked at the star map and heaved a sigh of relief. They're finally here. That mysterious beyond grade A had promised to provide reinforcements, and this fleet was the first batch of reinforcements. The Ancient Emperor Party leader originally wanted to guess the identity of the beyond grade A through the background of the reinforcements, but when he saw the insignia of this fleet, he could not help but reveal a look of surprise. This was a large armed organization in the Shattered Star Ring that was active in this star cluster. This organization was controlled by 4 Calamity Grade Supers, and one of them was even a beyond grade A seed many years ago. Thus, this organization was not small, and many people thought that they did not have a backer. However, from the looks of it, the backer of this low-profile armed organization was an unknown beyond grade A. Just which beyond grade A was this mysterious beyond grade A? Could it be that he had more than one subordinate organization in the Shattered Star Ring? The Ancient Emperor Party leader suppressed the shock in his heart and ordered his troops to meet the other party. With the reinforcements of this armed force, their situation would be much better. The flagship of both parties met, and the projection of the Ancient Emperor Party leader saw the 4 Calamity Grade Supers of this armed organization. I am the leader of the Gilul civilization. Thank you. The beyond grade A seed interrupted the Ancient Emperor Party leader and calmly said, "We will help you suppress the traitors. There is no need to thank us. We are only following orders." The expression of the Ancient Emperor Party leader changed slightly, and after thinking for a while, he probed, "May I know who your orders are?" At this moment, one of the members beside him was possessed by the mysterious person and said, "Don't ask for my name. There will be no next time, or the agreement will be voided." The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party was startled, but he could only nod and promise. After thinking for a while, he said, "We followed your suggestion, but there was no response from the Black Star Corps. Is that so?" The mysterious person was not surprised. Failure is inevitable, and the pattern I concluded will not be effective every time. Thus, more observation and experimentation are required. However, the mysterious person fell into deep thought. It seems like Black Star is not just lucky. Like me, he also grasped some patterns. Chapter 875. As the Ancient Emperor Party received reinforcements, the advancement of the Pioneer Party was met with some resistance. This armed organization, led by a beyond grade A seed in the Shattered Star Ring, actually intervened in the civil war and helped the Ancient Emperor Party. Due to the suddenness of this matter, all the organizations paying attention to the civil war were surprised. Going against the Black Star Corps in the Shattered Star Ring, although the Black Star Corps was not an overlord, their actions were still shocking. This was a direct confrontation with the Black Star Corps. The Black Star Corps had countless experts, so where did 4 Calamity Grade Supers get the confidence to interfere with the Black Star Corps' war employment? Even if one of them was a beyond grade A seed, it would not be enough in front of the Black Star Corps. Han Xiao, who was smithing in the headquarters, received news from Philip. He originally had doubts about his guess, but this matter had confirmed his suspicions. Not only that, when he saw this armed organization, he also found out the identity of the mastermind. So it's the Han Xiao was enlightened. The beyond grade A seed of this armed organization was called Luther, and he had always been a free super active in the Shattered Star Ring. However, Luther's true identity was actually an elite member of a super financial group that spanned across star fields, limitless. The harmonious galactic society brought about endless business opportunities and gave birth to a large number of financial groups. The Limitless Financial Group was an exception because the current head of the financial group was a Beyond Grade A. Not every Beyond Grade A was passionate about forming an armed organization, and there were differences in their management capabilities. The current head of the Limitless Financial Group was a Beyond Grade A who loved money and was good at making money. His name was Sorokin, and his position in the universe was rather special. Sorokin had inherited the position of the financial group's leader and developed the Limitless Financial Group to its current scale. This super financial group was now one of the best in the business world. They were in the military, people's livelihood, technology, trade, intelligence, service, manufacturing, and so on. They were involved in almost every industry and had many brands under them. Their business scope covered many star fields, and they were deeply involved in the lives of galactic residents. They were a mega-corporation that everyone knew. This behemoth-level financial group also had business dealings with the three universal civilizations. The Limitless Financial Group belonged to the neutral faction and had long been listed in the entire universe. Its scale of assets was extremely terrifying, and its symbol was the symbol of the Mobius ring. On the other hand, the armed forces of the Limitless Financial Group were not to be underestimated. With its enormous financial resources, the Limitless Financial Group had subsidiary forces in various star fields, which were equivalent to the military forces of the financial group. The organization led by Luther was such an existence. Furthermore, due to the faction nature of the commercial organization, Sorokin was not the only Beyond Grade A combatant in the Limitless Financial Group. Sorokin roped in Beyond Grade A allies by sharing shares, allowing some of the famous Beyond Grade, as in the universe, to become long-term shareholders of the Limitless Financial Group, including a few of the ancient ones. Through regular dividends, these Beyond Grade A organizations receive various resources, forces, and other support. With money opening the way, the Limitless Financial Group's network of interests and connections across the universe was as unfathomable as the ocean. In comparison, although the Black Star Corps was also a Beyond Grade A organization, they had only developed for a short period of time, and their current scale was far from the other parties. Luther had only revealed his identity in the later versions, and currently, no one in the Shattered Star Ring knew that Luther was a member of the Limitless Financial Group. However, Han Xiao was different. He knew Luther's background very well, so he immediately understood who was meddling in the affairs of the Gilal civilization. This could be considered his unique advantage. In front of him, many secrets were no longer secrets. The Limitless Financial Group's interest in the player phenomenon can be explained, Han Xiao thought. In his previous life, the Limitless Financial Group was a large faction that players could join, and its headquarters was in the Sea of Star Spirits. Many Sea of Star Spirits players joined the financial group in the middle stages of the game. Not only were they rich in resources and benefits, but they also had an internal promotion system and regular official salaries. Even now, a considerable portion of the Sea of Star Spirits players had been recruited by the Limitless Financial Group. On the Sea of Star Spirits board, the Limitless Financial Group was quite popular. Han Xiao guessed that the other party's motive was most likely to come over to peep at his vegetable garden. They probably felt that my undying army was very similar to the players they recruited, so they sent someone to test me. The Limitless Financial Group might have discovered some of the behavior of the players. For example, as long as they made a request to the players, even if it was unreasonable, the players might still do it. That's why they got the Ancient Emperor Party to ask for help from the army to test the reaction of the players. Han Zhao's guess was not far from the truth. If I remember correctly, the Limitless Financial Group is also an active organization in the flickering world. Han Zhao's eyes flickered. The various star fields had different large organizations that would gather in the flickering world in version 4.0. They were all competitors, and a large corporation like the Limitless Financial Group was one of them. It seemed like he would have to deal with them in the future. Han Xiao pondered for a while before calling the Black Star Guards into the room. Very soon, Hela led the team into the workshop. I have a mission for you guys. Han Xiao waved his hand, and a virtual screen appeared in front of everyone, displaying the information of Luther and the others. This armed organization is involved in the civil war of the Gyul civilization and is supporting the ancient Emperor Party. The enemy has 4 more Calamity-grade supers, so I need you guys to reinforce the front lines and try to get rid of these 4 fellows. By the way, this Luther is a beyond grade A seed. Hela, Hardaway, be careful. Got it. Hela nodded. I know Luther. Hardaway crossed his arms, tilted his head, and said, I sparred with him a long time ago. He's a very powerful pugilist. Strange, I remember that he's very low profile. Why would he suddenly go against the army? Who knows? Han Xiao raised his brows. He did not intend to tell anyone that he knew about the other party's background. The Limitless Financial Group probably thought that they were probing in the dark, so he would let them continue to think that way. All right. Hardaway did not say anything. He had a friendship with Luther in the past, but since Luther had chosen to help the opposing faction, he would not go easy on him. The group of Black Star Guards left the room, and Han Zhao's eyes flashed. He opened the secondary dimension gate and called out the apostle weapons. Lord, Psionic Prime half squatted, and his head was at the same height as Han Zhao's. Han Xiao slowly said, bring a batch of mechanical troops to the Gyul civilization. If Hela and the others do not succeed, find a chance to get rid of Luther and the other 3 Calamity-grade supers. Philip will send you the information of the enemy. He could not do anything to the Limitless Financial Group, and they were not enemies. However, eliminating Luther and the others was not a problem. This was in line with the position of the Black Star Corps. These people were hired by the other side, so they naturally could not avoid killing the members of the Black Star Corps. This would indirectly increase the casualties of the Black Star Corps. Since the Limitless Financial Group was coveting his immortal troops, trying to probe him, and even sending their subordinate organizations to kill his troops, Han Xiao might as well use this opportunity to get rid of the lackeys sent by the financial group and pretend that he did not know the other party's true goal. This would also serve as a warning to prevent the Limitless Financial Group from becoming even more aggressive. Boom! The spaceship crashed onto the surface of a desolate planet, plowing up a large amount of soil as it rolled, leaving behind a deep ravine. When the spaceship stopped rolling, Luther crawled out from the wreckage. Figures descended from the sky one after another. They were the Black Star Guards, led by Hela. Every one of them had some minor injuries, and they coldly stared at Luther. Luther's injuries were even more severe. His hand was covering his bloody chest, and one could vaguely see his beating heart through his pale ribs. He used his energy to increase the activity of his cells, causing his wounds to grow flesh and slowly recover. However, it was like pouring a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Black Star really thinks highly of me, actually sending the famous Black Star Guards to deal with me. Cough, cough. Even if I die in battle, it will be my honor. Luther's face was pale, but there was no despair on his face. Instead, he seemed to be rather carefree, as if he did not care about life and death. The two sides had met on the battlefield, and Hela and the rest had persevered in their pursuit. They had already killed 3 of his companions, and he was the only one left. Hardaway shook his head. I don't understand. Why did you accept the employment of the ancient Emperor Party? If it's to earn money, why did you have to go against the Black Star Corps? Since you killed the people of the Corps, His Excellency Black Star will definitely send experts to deal with you. You should know that. I don't have the habit of explaining myself to others. Luther took a deep breath and gathered his energy, preparing to fight to the death. Hardaway hesitated for a moment before persuading. Just surrender. His Excellency Black Star is actually very easygoing, and he values talents. You're a beyond grade A seed, and if you're willing to join the Corps, His Excellency Black Star will not make things difficult for you. I'm not interested. You can either kill me or be killed by me. I'm not prepared to choose the third option. Is there a need for that? Hardaway frowned. There's no deep hatred between us. It wasn't easy for you to become a beyond grade A seed. So why must you send yourself to death? Bang! Luther's reply was to stomp on the ground, causing the ground to crack. He instantly charged in front of Hardaway and punched out like a cannonball. Hadavy maintained his hardening Esper ability and took the blow head-on. The fiery fist that passed through his body tore apart the ground behind him, forming a huge rift valley. A yellowish-brown mountain further away collapsed into rubble and fell into the deep valley. The numerous Black Star Guard attacked with all their might, and the battle lasted for a long time. The terrain within a radius of thousands of miles was completely changed, and the valley was filled with holes. Although Luther was a beyond grade A seed, he could not withstand this kind of attack. In the end, he was completely drained, and his mind was crushed by Gila. His strong body lost its soul, and he fell to the ground with a thud. A cloud of dust flew up, and the gravel stuck to his widened eyes. Hela remained expressionless, and with a wave of her hand, wisps of gray mist flew out from Luther's body, which was absorbed and transformed into nourishment for her power of the dead Esper ability. On the other hand, Hadavy was sighing at the side. Such a good man, what a pity. The Black Star Guards cleaned up the battlefield and left the desolate planet in a spaceship. Not long after they left, Psionic Prime appeared in outer space with a team of long-range soldiers. The Black Star Guards have already killed the target. There's no need for us to act. Psionic Prime, who had been observing the battlefield from the side, nodded and returned with the long-range soldiers. Luther is dead? In the conference room, the upper echelons of the Ancient Emperor Party were stunned. Although they knew that the reinforcements were not a match for the Black Star Corps, he was still a beyond grade A seed. To think that he would be killed so quickly. At this moment, one of the upper echelons trembled. He had been possessed by a mysterious person. In truth, this mysterious person was the leader of the limitless financial group, Sorokin. He was busy every day, but he had the ability to multitask. At this moment, only a portion of his consciousness was possessed. Sorokin controlled the possessed person to ponder for a moment before saying, "Everyone, it seems like our cooperation will have to end." The leader of the Ancient Emperor Party was shocked. The reaction of the Black Star Corps is more intense than I expected. My original intention was to probe and observe, but the price has exceeded my expectations. If we continue to cooperate, the cost will be too high, and this investment is not worth it, Sorokin said calmly. A beyond grade A seed was extremely rare, and Luther's death made Sorokin's heart ache. Sorokin did not know that Black Star already knew about his background. According to his original calculations, the Black Star Corps would not be so forceful. However, he did not expect that Han Shao would actually send out all of his Black Star Guards. As such, Sorokin did not dare to take action. Although he was strong, he could not come over personally to pick a fight with Black Star over such a small matter. He was also not willing to sacrifice more of his subordinate organizations for an experiment. Han Zhao's forcefulness made him give up on the idea of probing the immortal troops for the time being. He had originally prepared a follow-up plan to test the reaction of the immortal troops, but he could only put it aside now. However, he was not someone who liked to be taken advantage of. Although Black Star had killed his men without him knowing, he was not prepared to let this matter rest. Of course, Sorokin did not plan to retaliate with force. The Arcane Church had already suffered a loss, and he did not think that the high-level combatants he could mobilize would be stronger than the Arcane Church. His past experience had shown that Black Star was an ambitious person. Sorokin believed that as long as Black Star slowly expanded, there would be a day when he would meet the limitless financial group, and that day would not be too far away. He was currently trying to establish a relationship with the dynasty, hoping to obtain the ticket to the flickering world as soon as possible. His progress was rather smooth. Without waiting for anyone to speak, Sorokin's consciousness left. The Ancient Emperor Party's leader had a gloomy expression. In the blink of an eye, a few months had passed. Han Shao had been staying in the headquarters building machinery, while paying attention to the changes in the Gyul civilization. Ever since Luther's death, the Limitless Financial Group seemed to have ceased all activities. Han Shao thought about it carefully. The Limitless Financial Group was hiding their identity so that they would not be recognized by him. After all, the financial group was a neutral organization and not a private army. As long as the cost was enough to make the other party feel the pinch, they would stop. Without any support, the ancient Emperor Party had fallen from heaven back to hell. The Civil War had returned to the control of the Pioneer Party and the Black Star Corps. Seeing that the Limitless Financial Group had given up on probing him, Han Xiao also retracted his gaze. This was only a small interlude in the process of making use of the players. As the players grew stronger, there would definitely be people spying on them. The experience provided by the players was the foundation for his rapid growth, and there was no room for negotiation. If he did not act tough, others would only take a mile after taking an inch. After dealing with this small interlude, Han Xiao turned his attention to a more important matter. He had already been in seclusion for a few months, and today, the experience penalty of 16 months had finally ended. Chapter 876. He came to the combat training room and closed the door. He was the only one left in the huge room. Han Xiao took a deep breath, moved his shoulders, and opened the interface. There were only a few minutes left of the 40% experience penalty debuff that had been on his status bar for more than 10 months. Staring at the seconds ticking by, Han Xiao's mood changed slightly. He could not help but feel touched. It wasn't easy. 16 months of experience penalty. Han Xiao sighed. 16 months ago, he had finally stepped into the highest level of strength and become a new beyond grade A super. Those who had just entered this circle would always face more jealousy and hostility. In just a short 1.5 years, he had gone through a lot. First, he fought with Cisco to keep the evolution cube. Then, he had a battle with Heber. Then, he reported to the Crimson Dynasty's mother planet and was provoked by the dynasty's allies to test his strength. Along the way, he had fought with ES God. Not long ago, he had even faced his biggest crisis and almost been killed by the Arcane Church. He had only been a beyond grade A super for about 1.5 years, but he had already experienced so many crises. Thinking back, Han Xiao still felt a little scared and secretly sighed. Luckily, I resolved these dangers with my smart brain and handsome face. Han Xiao shamelessly gave himself a thumbs up. Crises were also opportunities, and he had established his position because of this. Now, he had finally gotten rid of the negative status of the experience penalty. It's getting better. It's getting better. Han Xiao rubbed his palms, and happiness was written all over his face. I'm now level 260. This was an emergency level up when I was dealing with those bastards from the Arcane Church, which made me spend 40% more experience. With the experience I've accumulated during this time, Han Xiao looked at the experience bar and estimated. I should be able to reach level 280. At this level, the experience required to level up every time was jaw-droppingly high. It was a number that would make one despair. Han Xiao did a rough calculation. Without the experience penalty, if he ignored the promotion and class advancement, the experience he had to level up now would be enough for a level 1 player to reach level 160 or even more. Furthermore, as his level increased, the cost of leveling up would also increase by a certain factor. If he did not have a long-term, stable channel to harvest experience from players with the current level of mission rewards, who knew how long it would take for him to reach level 280 just by doing missions. The EXP he had accumulated during this time was enough to reach level 280, and this was with the help of the political assets. The effect of the political assets was similar to a permanent double EXP card, and any method to gain EXP would be increased. How terrifying! After lamenting for a while, the duration of the experience penalty finally reached the last second, and the icon disappeared. The side effects of the evolution cube finally. Han Xiao smiled, rubbed his muscles, and felt the activity of the cells in his body. The actual manifestation of this side effect was that the cells would slowly adapt to the rapid evolution of the genes. The stronger the individual, the more energy the cells would carry, and the longer the transformation process would take. At this moment, The faint discomfort in the cells in his body finally disappeared, and the transformation was complete. The effect of the evolution cube is indeed amazing. I've only used it once. According to the mechanism shown on the interface, every time my energy level increases, I should be able to obtain a new level of evolution. Han Xiao nodded. The last time he had used the evolution cube in a hurry was to reach beyond grade A, and the side effect had come at the wrong time. He did not intend to use the evolution cube only once. However, he would have to choose the right time next time. The best time to use the evolution cube would be after spending all the accumulated experience during the version update. Lord Mechanic leveled up to LV2, plus 360 energy, plus 5 STR, plus 5 DX, plus 12 END, plus 15 INT. You have received 12 free attribute points and 1 potential point. A warm current surged in his body, and his energy level gradually increased. As his experience bar slowly emptied, his main class level continued to soar, finally stopping at LV20. You have reached LV280. You have triggered the promotion mission, Legendary Flight. As soon as this promotion mission popped up, it showed a golden completed status. Glancing at it, Han Xiao was overjoyed. The universe grade legendary point was the highest level of legendary point. The deeds one did had to shake the entire universe, and the players had to complete extremely difficult missions or do extremely extraordinary things to have a chance of obtaining it. This promotion mission was already at the late stage. During the version where the World Tree Civilization invaded, the universe grade legendary points had a more stable channel to obtain. Even with Han Zhao's current status, it was not easy to obtain a universe grade legendary point. However, Han Xiao happened to have a universe grade legendary point, which was the enemy of Ethereal. This is really... Han Zhao's mouth twitched. A blessing in disguise? He had been in this world for so many years, but this was the only universe grade legendary point he had. It could be seen how rare this thing was. Now that he did not have a mission completion card, he originally thought that he would be temporarily stuck at the LV280 promotion mission. He did not expect that. He would be lucky for once. Han Xiao grinned, his heart bursting with joy. I have to thank my old buddy from the Arcane Church for giving me this legendary point. Right, I have to thank Fu Ding as well. Thinking of Fu Ding, Han Zhao's hands itched a little. He was already used to touching him. You have fulfilled the mission requirements. LV280 promotion mission completed. Plus 55 end. 1 END plus 410 health equals 420 stamina. Your energy rank has exceeded 52,000 ONA. You have received the talent Strengthened Multi-Element Resistance. You have received the talent Energy Utilization Optimization. You have received the talent Advanced Vitality. You have learned the skill Advanced Coercion. All of your virtual technology skills have been increased by 40%. Crackle, crackle. Han Zhao's eyes flashed with electricity. After a long time, he exhaled a cloud of blue mist. There was no species evolution this time, so the evolution pain was very low. He lowered his head and looked at it. His appearance did not change much. He was a little taller, and his muscles looked more beautiful. His chest muscles were like 2 iron plates covering his chest, and his abs were well-defined. His head felt a little itchy. He raised his hand and scratched, and a bunch of hair fell off. Hair loss. Han Xiao was shocked. He hurriedly summoned a mirror and heaved a sigh of relief after seeing it clearly. The promotion catalyzed his metabolism and improved the cell structure of his entire body. His original hair fell off, and new hair grew out. The fallen hair was stuck in his hair, so it was no wonder it felt itchy. Phew, my thick black hair is still here. Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. He almost thought that he had walked the evil path of sacrificing his hair in exchange for power. The more bald he was, the stronger he would be. The upper limit of the Lord Mechanic class was level 40, and he needed to be level 300 to change his class. The next species evolution would also require him to be level 300, so level 280 was an ordinary promotion in the middle. However, 52,000 energy rank seemed to be a hidden limit. There were strong and weak beyond grade as, and not everyone could reach 52,000 energy rank. The abilities that were given seemed to be the basic abilities that one would have when they reached a new level. Previously, after obtaining Endless Material Science and Virtual Creator, his energy rank had increased by a wave and was close to 52,000. Now that he had increased 20 levels and his promotion, it was enough to break through this limit. Han Zhao's eyes moved. He glanced at the new abilities, and the effects confirmed his guess. Although there was no species evolution, every promotion was a sublimation of his life level, breaking through 52,000 energy rank and entering a new level of life. These were all passive abilities that came with high-level life forms. When one reached this level, almost everyone would have them. The effect of multi-element resistance enhancement was to increase various resistances similar to perfect mechanical sense, with a coefficient of 1.25x. Energy utilization optimization, on the other hand, reduced the energy and stamina consumption of each skill by 27%, allowing him to last longer. High Life Force increased the maximum health and recovery speed, increasing the maximum health by 17% and basic recovery speed by 120%. These three abilities were all talents that strengthened one's foundation. The main purpose was to increase one's resistance. No matter what class they would have stronger vitality. The only ability, High Deterrence, was an aura-type ability that could be switched on and off. His life level already had the effect of suppressing those below him, and now it was a skill. Deterrence could cover an area, and all the individuals within the area would be affected. However, it could only be used on intelligent life forms that were lower than his own grade. Those that were not affected by mental strength would be immune to this effect, such as mechanical life forms, so it would not be of much use in battles of the same grade. Isn't Jie Haoshika Haki? Han Xiao scratched his head. Thinking about it, this ability did not seem to have any other use other than to bully noobs. However, if he wanted to bully noobs, as a mechanic he did not need any aura at all. Those three abilities were still more reliable. Although it was just a normal promotion, the increase was very significant. In the later stages, every promotion was not for nothing. His basic endurance bonus was 1 endurance equals 410 health, and the other abilities gave him Advanced Strength in Life, plus 60, Eternal Body, plus 140, plus 1% every 2 levels, Grade S plus 50, and Extraordinary Physique, plus 10% health, High Life Force, plus 17% health, High Life Force, plus 100 health, and Well-Trained, plus 100 health. In terms of mechanical force, there were also various talents and abilities that could convert intelligence into machinery affinity. He threw the free attribute points into intelligence, looked at the changes on his interface, and was satisfied. Level 280 Main Class, Mechanic Race, Black Star Race Attributes, 3,347 STR, 4,080 DX, 6,129 END, 9,029 INT, 2,950 MYS, 1,163 CHA, 1 LUK free attribute points, 0 potential points, 21 health, 5, 137, 427 stamina, 4 for 17, 950 energy, 89320 LV 17, LV 17 energy bonus, plus 1,206 STR, plus 1,488 DX, plus 1,890 END, plus 2,345 INT, plus 1,123 MYS, plus 311520 stamina limit, plus 1,632% machinery affinity energy rank, 53750 grade, S plus, beyond rank S bonuses, plus 50 END, plus 25 all resistances, plus 25% highest attribute, plus 15% other attributes, plus 750 free attribute points, and plus 50 potential points. The remarks this time are so official. Han Xiao rubbed his chest. Instead of ridiculing his meatiness, he was not used to it. At grade S+, the strength of those above grade S would be even stronger, but they would still be called beyond grade A. In terms of destructive power, there would not be a qualitative change like when the calamity grade advanced to beyond grade A. Because there was no clear reference for the strength of beyond grade A, the grades within beyond grade A were also calculated. The way they were divided was like a small realm, belonging to the category of quantitative change. Just like how people in the early days of the exploration era thought that the calamity grade was the upper limit of strength, people now also thought that beyond grade A was the limit of strength. What God wanted was to imitate the primordial ones, break the limit, and revolutionize the strength system to a whole new level, creating a fundamental change. Without looking at God's personality, this goal alone was very ambitious. After his promotion, the cost of leveling up skyrocketed again. With a glance, Han Xiao knew that he did not have enough EXP to reach level 300 in the short term. After all, he was using the faction store to earn EXP from the players. Even if he earned EXP very quickly, he still needed time to accumulate it. Furthermore, the players had already learned a lot of knowledge, so the efficiency of providing EXP had decreased. He was not prepared to wait any longer. He had already been in seclusion for a few months, and the sooner he got rid of God, the better. During this period, he had crafted quite a number of targeted equipment. As long as the dynasty was willing to provide assistance, he did not dare say that he would definitely be able to kill God, but he was at least confident. I haven't contacted the dynasty during this period. I wonder how they're doing with the arcane church. If they can reach a consensus, they should be able to take care of God. Han Xiao took out his communicator and was about to contact the dynasty personnel to ask about the situation. At this time, Philip suddenly spoke. Master, someone sent me an encrypted message just now. Sending an encrypted message in front of me? Why are you being so sneaky? Decode it and find out who sent it. I can't decode it alone, so I came to find you, Philip said with a wronged expression. Han Xiao paused and narrowed his eyes. Philip was now his powerful assistant in the virtual technology field. If Philip could not decode it alone, it meant that the other party was not simple. They were at least an organization at the star cluster level or above. They definitely had some ulterior motive for contacting him secretly. Then, what did the encrypted message say? They said that they are the descendants of the space-time freezer and want to talk to you face-to-face. Han Xiao was stunned, and his expression changed slightly. When he was searching for information about the space-time amber, he remembered the current situation of the space-time freezer race. So, this is the Radiant Federation looking for me? Sending the space-time freezer race over. Is this hinting that they already know the origin of the space-time amber? Han Xiaoxin became alert and guessed the intentions of the Radiant Federation. After thinking for a while, he instructed Philip, reply to him that I agree to meet. I went out in the afternoon and finished writing a little late. Today I was promoted to a god, so I'm quite happy. Thank you, brothers, for your love. Mua mua mua. Asterisk. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.